Zelda Invades Marvel. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 426, Indecision, Quantum Realm. Scott and the others quietly opened the door and saw that the hall was in ruins. Compared with the damage caused by the invasion of the monster meat, the damage caused by Tony, the owner of the Avengers base, was more serious. Monsters that come to make trouble are cruel, and monsters that come to make trouble when sleeping are even more damned. Especially when I was dreaming and bullying Link, Tony muttered. After this overwhelming attack, he immediately felt a sense of relief. Roger said, "You should at least leave a living body, otherwise we won't know that it was sent." Venom said dully, "These are my people. Of course they were sent by the disaster, but they are very strange, as if they were infected by these weird hosts and can't communicate at all. They are crazy." Natasha said, "Symbiotes. Drake is so direct, obviously he has already started to act. So we are now." Tony said, "Go to sleep first. We'll talk about it tomorrow." Rogers frowned and said, "If Drake really uses a rocket to pick up the symbiote army, things will be too serious to handle. You still want to sleep now?" Tony stretched lazily. "Going to the sky is not such an easy thing. Before going to bed, I hacked into the flame launch base of the Life Foundation and messed up their system. If Drake dares to take off by force, there is only one result waiting for him. Go and never come back." The sudden attack made people panic. Especially Hank's family. They couldn't stand the Avengers' life of 3 shocks every night. Hank secretly said to his daughter, "I really live here." The only one who was happy was Link. These strange meats were difficult to deal with, but 3 proofs of order were revealed. He ran around to collect them and felt that the energy in his body was running more and more rationally, which made him very satisfied. Although the proof of order could not directly improve his strength, it could rationally use the energy in his body. Under the same consumption, the damage caused by Link was far greater than that of others, and the energy conversion was brought to the limit. To put it in an analogy, the proof of order was like a god-level programmer who optimized Zelda Breath of the Wild to the point that it could even be played on the FC Red and White machine launched in 1983. Link was sticky all over because he got into the monster's stomach. So he shrunk his body to reduce the cleaning area, and then a burst of electricity ran through his body, and he suddenly became the cleanest boy in the world again. Hulk was also very uncomfortable, so he carefully poked Link's little shoulder with his finger, and then pointed at himself. He wanted Link to help him clean it too. Little Link snapped his fingers, and Hulk's body was also hit by the electric current, and his body felt numb and tingling, which was a bit funny. Hank and others were surprised to see Link suddenly turned into a child, smaller. Could he also be able to regain his youth? Could it be because of quantum? Tony interrupted Hank hurriedly. "You can't attribute all problems to the quantum field." Quicksilver nodded with deep understanding. "That's right. Recent science fiction movies often talk about quantum physics." Hank walked around a pile of rotten meat and came to little Link with Hope and others. Hope couldn't help but lower her head and rubbed Link's messy hair after he became smaller. Scott looked at Link curiously. "You are about the same age as my daughter." Because Link became smaller, their attitudes towards Link changed. Anyone who sees this cute little appearance will inevitably speak in a gentle tone. Hank asked cautiously, "How did you become smaller?" Nordy helped Link and said, "Link was injured before, and his body was damaged. As a result, under the nourishment of the world's will, his body unexpectedly shrank." Venom on the side couldn't help but stretch out his claws to touch Link, but was glared back by him. Hank said to Hope hesitantly, "What if your mother comes back from the quantum realm and she remains young while I become so old? Will our previous relationship?" Midona saw that Hank was so old but still looked like a young fool in love. She couldn't help but complain, "Let your wife come back first. If it doesn't work, throw you into the universal quantum realm that can explain everything. Maybe you will become younger too." This was a joke. As a result, Hank nodded seriously. "It's really possible." From the microcosmic level, Midona. The next day, Link was ready to set off with Tony and others to find trouble with Drake. Now the princesses are very strong and have the ability to protect themselves. Link didn't want them to run around all day, so he kept them. He also earnestly instructed the Sky Princess and others, "You must practice diligently, don't be lazy." The three princesses forced a smile at each other. Since he found that Link could benefit from the princess's improvement in strength, he has paid special attention to the practice of several princesses, especially the Sky Princess, her starry night power. Now the black curtain fades, transformed into a pure starlight power. Compared with the already superb sword skills of the Wuxian Princess and the already very exquisite archery of the Twilight Princess, the Sky Princess still has a lot of room for improvement. So Link hopes that the Sky Princess can bring him more proof of order. This reminds the princesses of the days when they were young and were strictly disciplined by the court teachers. Especially Link's enthusiastic eyes, which made these princesses feel quite stressed. Zelda is the only one among the four princesses who has not awakened her power so far, so she is very relaxed. As a result, Link asked her to urge these princesses to train. After Link left, the Sky Princess tiptoed and looked at the record. Excitedly, "Let's continue playing Brawl." Zelda immediately got stuck and said shyly, "Zelda, Sky, what Link just said." The Sky Princess face suddenly turned bitter. Then she started thinking about how to be lazy. The Warrior Princess and the Twilight Princess also noticed Zelda's slightly awkward smile. Their faces were a little stiff. So, the four princesses began to compete secretly for no reason. But Link, the culprit who destroyed the pure friendship between the princesses, was happily playing Brawl with Quicksilver and the fighter. Among the Avengers, he and Quicksilver had the fastest reaction speed, and the two of them desperately consumed the durability of the controller buttons. As for Tony, he was planning his own sinister plan. He said in a villainous tone, "If you dare to throw dirty things into my territory, I will throw a Hulk into your territory." Banner, hey. Rogers always felt that things would not be too peaceful today. He said, "I always have a bad feeling." Then he saw a rocket in the distance, slowly breaking through the sky and heading towards the distant space. Welcome to Vote and subscribe to support genuine works. Chapter 427. Enemy. 20,000 symbiotes. Tony. Roger's tone was somewhat helpless. Drake's rocket took off. Tony hurried over. He was surprised. He has the guts to take off? You know, the entire rocket system has been modified by Jarvis. If it goes up, it will be a one-way trip. He immediately turned to look at Ed. Venom, this. Ed shrugged, and the dull voice of Venom came from his body. "Ah, I remember. We fell on the Earth, so there is no need to return safely, just crash back to the Earth." Tony rubbed his head. He misjudged the vitality of the symbiote and Drake's sense of crisis about the Avengers. Helplessly, he said to Jarvis, who was controlling the fighter, "Let's chase and blow up the rocket." Banner immediately stopped. "No, the wreckage of the rocket will hurt the residents of San Francisco. We must wait until he flies high enough." Link raised his head. Only he, Vision, and Tony had the ability to fight in space. It was difficult for others to just control themselves to float. So Navy said, "Link, take Tony and Vision to trigger it. You stay in the fighter, be alert. If you find any creature like Venom, just kill it with one shot." Tony nodded. "That's right." Loki, who had been playing with Pepper, suddenly said, "You'd better be careful. Symbiotes are creatures with extremely strong sound abilities. Drake dared to use this type of spaceship to pick them up, which means that the symbiote army is not far from the Earth. Maybe you can deal with one or two symbiotes, but this creature is actually a kind of insect, and when it grows to a certain size, it is not so easy to deal with, especially the three of you. Link, Tony Stark, and Vision. One of the strongest fighters on Earth, one of the smartest brains on Earth, and the owner of the Mind Gem. Once you are invaded by the symbiotes and controlled by them, the Earth will suffer a disaster far more terrifying than the invasion of the Shadow Kingdom." Natasha also said, "That's right, you must be careful. It's a pity that Thor is no longer here. Maybe we can call him." Although Tony was somewhat worried, he still put on a confident look in front of others. "A little alien, it's nothing." Then he left the cabin with Link and Vision, flying towards the rocket. Vision was particularly afraid of the sticky nature of the symbiote because she had been attacked by the monster meat once before. She couldn't help but wonder, will Link be afraid? Then she looked over and saw Link's hair being pulled straight at high speed. Link's expression was very calm and he didn't feel scared at all. Or rather, there was nothing in this world that could scare Link. Midona and Fang on his body were quietly clinging to Link's shoulders at this moment, as if they were not afraid at all, because they were next to Link. The giant satellite that was cut into 2 pieces by Twilight Princess, the symbiotes stuck together to piece the broken giant satellite together into a whole. They quietly waited for their leader to arrive. The rocket quickly approached the giant satellite, and strangely, the fuel tank was not abandoned. This surprised Tony. Jarvis also detected the existence of a large number of symbiotes on the abandoned giant satellite and reported it immediately. Tony and Vision's faces changed wildly when they heard it. At least 20,000? Tony said angrily, what do these guys want to do? Where did they come from? Link quickly accelerated again. The mass of the giant satellite and the complete rocket is enough to pull down the Earth's gravity. Once these 20,000 terrible alien symbiotes land on the Earth, it will be an unimaginable disaster. Disaster jumped out of the hatch and saw Link and others flying quickly. He laughed wildly and said, you dare to come here? Let this boundless space become the burial place for all of you. Your dry eyeballs will not rot here, but will slowly watch us expand on the Earth and turn this place into our kingdom. Tony gritted his teeth. Can you talk in outer space? What kind of creature is this? He developed the jets of his legs to accelerate and rushed towards disaster. Although the energy consumption was huge, Tony didn't have time to think about it now. Anyway, he had a small Link brand battery with him that could be charged at any time. Tony gathered his arms together and put his hands together. He had obtained nanotechnology from Dr. Zeo and had applied it to Iron Man. A large amount of energy in his hands gathered and suddenly released a huge energy cannon, forming a silent beam in the dark outer space, piercing Disaster. Disaster was still laughing wildly. 20,000 symbiotes quickly gathered towards his body. His body gradually bulged. 20,000 symbiotes parasitized on Drake's body together, forming the strongest and largest symbiote in history. Tony exclaimed. His own light attack did not stop and hit Disaster's chest, but Disaster was unscathed. Disaster suddenly jumped over, and countless symbiotes behind him derived 2 long wings. The sticky and slippery black huge arm came, and Tony had no chance to dodge and was slapped away. Vision shouted, Boss Stark. He hurriedly hugged Iron Man, his eyes focused, and the mind gem shot out yellow lasers, shooting hard at Disaster. As a result, Disaster waved his hand and scattered a large number of symbiotes, rushing towards Vision. 3 of them grabbed Vision and began to devour this vibranium body. Vision hurriedly pushed Tony away, and his body was madly eroded by the 3 symbiotes, and he couldn't help but let out a cry of pain. In outer space, her voice was almost inaudible, but her pain could be seen from her expression. Her body had vibranium, so she was resistant to this parasite. But this resistance aggravated her pain, and one of the symbiotes covered her head and penetrated madly from her gem. Tony was startled and rushed to fly over. As a result, Link went to stop him and shouted at him, I will deal with Disaster. You go and destroy the remaining symbiotes in space. Link quickly hugged Vision, and a large amount of lightning suddenly released from his body. The symbiotes on Vision's body spasmed and exploded into pieces. Vision was also electrocuted, but fortunately her body had good resistance to electricity. Roger's vibranium shield can block Thor's lightning and Link's abuse, so Link doesn't have to worry about hurting her. He also said the same thing to Vision. But Vision was worried. Just you alone, dealing with such a large amount of venom? You will be in danger. Link smiled, said nothing, and quickly rushed towards Disaster. Disaster laughed strangely. Another one comes to die. Link's eyes were cold, and he took out the Dragon Soul Greatsword. Yeah, made a hey yo, and drilled into the Dragon Soul Greatsword. Welcome to vote and subscribe to support genuine works. Thank you Senyunluo for supporting 100 Kidian coins. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 428, A Crushing Victory. The Silent Cabin. The Dragon Soul Sword quickly grew larger and soon became a 30-meter long giant sword. The scorching temperature made the sword body red. Even if there was no air around, the terrifying heat would quickly dissipate. But even the 30-meter long giant Dragon Soul Sword was still too small compared to the 20,000 symbiotes of Disaster. Disaster looked down on it. What a ridiculous trick. Whether it is an ant or an ant the size of an insole, it will be killed by a single step. Tony and Vision used light attacks to clear the symbiotes that fell from Disaster. If any of these guys fell to the earth, it would have extremely bad consequences. Not to mention that it was of this magnitude. Even though Tony shot with both hands and Vision shot frequently with the Mind Stone, causing his brain to heat up, there were still a large number of symbiotes falling into the Earth's atmosphere. Tony yelled, "Captain, a lot of strange things will fall from the sky. No matter what you see, just attack. Even if I fall, shoot me first." Inside the fighter plane, everyone received the news and pictures from Jarvis. Tony's perspective appeared on the screen, and Link was holding a 30-meter long giant sword, slashing at the Disaster. The huge difference in size, even if Tony was just watching through the screen, even if he was just looking at it from a distance, he could feel an extreme sense of oppression from this picture of a small win over a big. Venom muffled and said, "It seems that Drake and Disaster are working well together. They actually have a way to gather so many symbiotes." Rogers clenched his shield. "Link and the others are fighting hard, and we are responsible for protecting the Earth from being invaded by even one symbiote." Natasha asked Venom, "It would be very cruel for you to kill your own kind. You don't have to participate in this matter." Venom said, "It is indeed a very cruel thing. But because we are of the same kind, I know what kind of people they are. I will definitely not live happily with them around." Quicksilver looked at Venom in surprise. "Why are you so bitter and resentful?" Venom said, "Like my host Ed, I'm an outcast in the group. You can't expect people like me to have much centripetal force at the outermost periphery." Bang! A sound came from the screen, and Link's giant Dragon Soul Sword was seen. A diagonal slash, slashing down with force. And Disaster stretched out his hand and made a very humiliating move for Link, pressing down on his middle finger, trying to bounce Link's finger away. Then Disaster's terrifying face immediately showed a look of shock. He looked at his wrist in horror, which was cut off by Link. He fell to the earth. Link dragged the big sword, and Arkle's violent power dragged him close. Another sword from bottom to top. Swish! A long sword mark appeared on Disaster's chest. The sharp sword energy almost broke Disaster's huge body into two. Disaster looked at the tiny Link in front of him in horror, and he caught the look in Link's eyes that were almost burning. Suddenly, his heart was doubled, and he fell into confusion because of the huge mutation. Tony shouted, "Good job. Let this ball of oil-flavored chewing gum be thrown into the trash can." Vision was shocked. "Hey, directly injure this big monster? So fast?" Even Rogers and others in the fighter plane on Earth fell silent. Venom silently said a swear word. He was beaten by Link before and knew that Link was very strong, so he suppressed him. But Venom didn't expect that in space, even in the vacuum environment, where survival is extremely difficult. Facing this huge symbiote group, Disaster, Link still suppressed it. Not to mention Venom, who had just been together for a short time. Even Rogers and the others did not expect Link to have such an exaggerated performance. They had a high opinion of Link and were very familiar with each other. Even so, Link's performance would often scare them. Natasha was the first to react. "A large number of symbiotes have fallen. Captain, prepare to attack. Otherwise, the San Francisco police will be very busy this weekend. Prepare to destroy the enemy." In space, Link swung the Dragon Soul Great Sword at a very fast speed and slashed at Disaster's waist again. The blazing sword light erupted, causing the toothy Dragon Soul inside the sword to roar again. She liked the feeling of a hearty strike. Disaster screamed, "Damn it." A large amount of Link's sword energy was injected into his body, killing more than 300 symbiotes in 1 second. The waist was cut in half. The symbiotes wailed one after another, causing their only host, Drake, to collapse mentally. Drake's soul collapsed, unable to maintain the huge amount of symbiotes. The body of a huge disaster exploded, and countless symbiotes scattered and spread, drifting to all parts of the universe, and most of them poured into the earth. Midona covered her face. Ouch. How to fight so many symbiotes? It's better to just kill them with a big guy. Link looked at the symbiotes in the sky, and he also had a headache. These symbiotes gathered together and confronted him head on, only to die. But it won't work if they are scattered. Link's attack range is simply difficult to effectively eliminate 20,000 symbiotes. Once this number of alien symbiotes falls on the earth, the whole world will spread rumors. Tony hesitated for a moment, contacted Rogers and said, I heard that the World Security Committee has been reorganized. Don't they like to throw nuclear bombs? Throw a few over here. I don't think there is any other solution. What's wrong, Vision? He felt Vision touching him. Vision pointed to the distance. In the sky, 2 dragons flew over. Ouch. Neil Dragon and Pharaoh Dragon roared and flew around. Tony was surprised. What are they doing here? They are looking at us in trouble. Pharaoh Dragon still looked like a demon, full of cannon pollution and rotten dirty eyeballs, exuding a dark and evil aura. He opened his mouth and spurted out a corrosive dragon breath. The black flames burned the space. Link waved at Pharaoh Dragon in surprise. He seemed to understand what Pharaoh Dragon wanted to do. Yair also ran out of the Dragon Soul Greatsword excitedly, and with a flick of his tail, he also turned into a mature oral dragon. The 3 dragons roared. Flying in the universe, the dragon breath, which was either scorching, cold, or evil, covered the outer space, forming a large hunting net with a sufficient range. The symbiotes screamed and twisted, and died in large numbers. In just 3 minutes, the 20,000 symbiotes that Link could not kill in 3 days and 3 nights were all solved by the dragon. The gentle voice of Goddess Hylia came to Link's mind again. The 3rd stage of the world's will has awakened. Feel your new power. Welcome to Vote and subscribe to support genuine works. Chapter 429. Feralong's Determination. Thunderbow. The 3-headed dragon hovered over the earth, and a large number of symbiotes were destroyed. Captain America and others were also desperately searching for the remaining symbiotes in the atmosphere. On the weekend, San Francisco residents watched in surprise as an inexplicable light came from the sky. They didn't know that the Avengers were trying their best to prevent alien creatures from invading the earth, and they didn't have the alertness of New Yorkers who had been ill for a long time, so they just watched it as a fun. But as some black symbiote fragments continued to fall from the sky, when they fell on people's heads or shoulders, the eyes of the crowd became terrified. It caused quite a commotion. It happened that some environmentalists were doing publicity activities on the weekend. They attributed the symbiote fragments that kept falling from the sky to the increasingly serious environmental pollution in this era. It caused panic among the people. San Francisco officials were also quite helpless. Some of them had received news from the Avengers, but they didn't dare to announce it to the public. Because if they announced, "Don't panic. It's not because of environmental pollution, but the Avengers are fighting aliens," it would only cause more serious riots. So when facing the interview with reporters, they could only say, "That's right. It's just an environmental problem. The 3-headed dragon has cleared the sky full of symbiotes." Without an attack target, Pharaoh Dragon became more and more painful. His body twisted, like a snake with parasites, the slender dragon body entangled together. Even if they are not the same species, Tony, Link and others can understand Pharaoh Dragon's feelings at the moment. Link wanted to fly over, but Vision held him back. Vision was a little worried. "He looks like this now. It's easy to hurt you." She pointed at Nirlang. Because Pharaoh Dragon was manic, Nirlang pushed Oolong away. Nirlang has not appeared for a long time. It seems that he went to look for Pharaoh Dragon. And now that he reappeared, Nirlang's body had a lot of black scratches, which looked a little desolate. Link could clearly feel that Nirlang had accumulated the power of Ganon pollution in his body. Who caused these scars? It goes without saying that Pharaoh Dragon lost control and accidentally injured him. I think Nirlang had a miserable life to appease Feralong. Link knew Vision's concerns, but he pulled Vision's hand away. He continued to fly towards Feralong. Due to the distance, Link liked to play with Feralong the most, and took away a few prizes before leaving. They didn't have a good relationship, but when he saw Link this time, Feralong was obviously a little shaken, and he called out to Link twice. Feralong's voice could not be heard in space, but Link knew that Feralong was calling him. Feralong was in pain, and Feralong didn't want to endure this pain. Feralong wanted Link to kill him. This will was clearly conveyed to Link's heart, and it was Feralong's desperate appeal. Yaya looked very sad, and Nilong touched Yaya's head with his claws. He was also exhausted. After Nilong left the earth, he had been following Feralong, trying to help his companions get rid of the curse in their bodies. But he never succeeded. After a long period of torture, Feralong completely gave up hope. This time, it was not a coincidence. Feralong was looking for Link on purpose. He wanted to use his Master Sword, which was used to slay demons, to end his completely polluted life. Link pulled out the Master Sword with a bang, and Faye appeared beside Link, following his master calmly. Seeing this, Feralong actually smiled. Yaya was very frightened, his eyes widened, and he rushed over. He became smaller, like a small snake, and coiled around Link's right wrist holding the sword, and his small dragon head hit his tiger's mouth. He looked at Link beggingly, not wanting him to kill Feralong. Link naturally didn't want to kill Feralong, and even the hand holding the Master Sword was shaking. His expression was very shaken, and this expression was not common on his face. Faye's electronic voice came, "Master Link, your mind is unstable. In this state, the power of using the Master Sword is only 20% of the normal state." Feralong became angry and roared. Link suddenly felt a sharp and fierce wave, carrying a huge amount of curse, blowing towards him fiercely. Pharaoh Dragon raised his head and looked at the distant sun on the left. He told Link that, even if Link didn't want to help him end it, he would crash his body into the sea of fire in the sun. Link called out to the goddess Hylia in his heart, asking her if there was any way to save Pharaoh Dragon. But the goddess Hylia never answered. Link was in space, and there was silence in his ears. He could only hold the sword tightly, and choose to help Pharaoh Dragon end it. Amid Yaya's crying, Link flew towards Pharaoh Dragon. Nilong couldn't bear to watch, avoiding his eyes, and covering his face with his two claws. Swish! Pharaoh Dragon was not prepared at all. Link easily used less than 20% of his power to pierce Pharaoh Dragon's strong curse with the Master Sword. Insert the Master Sword into Pharaoh Dragon's heart. The power of light sprayed out. Pharaoh Dragon's eyes turned pure white. On Pharaoh Dragon's dirty dark body, white cracks spread out from the heart like tree roots. In an instant, Pharaoh Dragon's body was covered. Bang! The cannon pollution on Pharaoh Dragon's body exploded. Pharaoh Dragon's original golden body was restored. The handsome Thunder Dragon that traveled through the rainforest canyon finally appeared again. Yaya cried on Link's wrist. She felt that Pharaoh Dragon's vitality was rapidly dissipating. Pharaoh Dragon was already on the verge of death before, relying entirely on the power of the curse to maintain his life. Link made Pharaoh Dragon's body clean, and also made Pharaoh Dragon's body lose the driving force of life. The scales on Pharaoh Dragon's body scattered one by one, and Pharaoh Dragon's body was glowing. But his expression was very peaceful and calm, and he shouted at Link. Cap! Pharaoh Dragon suddenly turned into a flash of lightning, and dissipated in the air. The sky above the western hemisphere was instantly covered with white light. Alas. Midona picked up Yaya, looked at Link who was very disappointed, and said, "You don't have to be too sad. Death is also a part of life." Nori suddenly said, "Link, be careful of electricity." The last burst of thunder in Pharaoh Dragon's life suddenly converged and rushed towards Link. The lightning swept in front of Link like a group of crazy twisted snakes. Midona shouted, "Oh no, Pharaoh Dragon's life is shattered, and his huge amount of thunder power is out of control." But Link shook his head and stared at the incoming thunder power in a trance. He stretched out his left hand. The light condensed, and a thunder bow composed of constantly flashing arcs fell obediently in Link's palm. On one side of the universe, lightning flickered. A golden dragon egg landed on a dead planet with a path. Welcome to vote and subscribe to support genuine works. Chapter 430 Resonance of Light. This is the weapon that Pharaoh Dragon used his last life to condense. Just like Oral Dragon, he also left Link his last legacy. Unfortunately, Link was unable to save this tragedy this time. Although he had a divine bow condensed from the dragon soul, But in front of Pharaoh Dragon's heroic departure, Link did not feel happy at all, nor did he check the ability of the Thunder Bow. He just put away the weapon silently, and Noi shouted to the other two, "Let's go back." Link lowered his head and touched Yair's head. With his eyes lowered, he thought Yair would be very sad, but this little guy looked around in confusion, as if looking for something. Did he become stupid because of the big blow? No way. Although Yair likes to cry, he is actually a little dragon with a strong will. How could he be so fragile? Yair raised his head, blinked his two big red eyes at Link, and pecked him gently on the chin. He babbled twice. Midona was shocked. "You said the Pharaoh Dragon is not dead." Midona and Yair have lived together for such a long time, and they are very familiar with Yair's dragon language. But when she heard Yair say "I feel that the Pharaoh Dragon is not dead," she still hesitated whether she heard it wrong. The Nell Dragon in the distance also came over and shouted at Link twice. It was as if there was a wonderful connection between Link, Zelda and Midona. The three dragons also had a mysterious resonance with each other. If the Pharaoh Dragon was really dead, these two dragons would definitely not be like this. I remembered the experience of the death of Oral Dragon and the birth of a dragon egg, and Yair was born. Maybe the Nell Dragon was not completely dead, but a new life cycle began. But what about the dragon egg? Midona brought a communicator and shouted to Tony and Vision, "Let's look for dragon eggs or dragon lids around." Everyone searched for a long time, but there was no Pharaoh Dragon egg. But the little Fang and the big Nilang were both very sure that Feral Lang was not dead, and there was still a familiar soul that was connected to them. So Link and the others found that Tony's suit was low on oxygen, and then they returned to Earth. No matter what, Nilang and Fang always maintained their confidence in their companion's survival, and they were not too sad, which was the best. Things finally took a turn for the better. After Tony returned to Earth, he comforted Fang. "If Feral Lang is on Earth, I can find him in 3 hours. If Feral Lang is in the universe, I can find him in 3 years. As long as he is still alive." Fang shouted at Tony twice to express his gratitude. Rogers and others were also very busy. They drove the spaceship to look for the fallen symbiote everywhere, and finally War Machine came to help, flying around with Falcon. Venom and Quicksilver and others hunted and killed on the ground. Only then did they completely eliminate all 20,000 symbiotes. Nilang said goodbye to Fang. Since being injured by humans, Nilang has been wary of the Earth. So his base is now Mars. As soon as he landed, someone from the World Security Committee came to inquire about the situation. After the previous 2 incidents, the World Security Committee did not dare to forcefully interfere with the Avengers. The people who came to inquire this time were also very nice. Natasha smiled and explained, "It's just a small matter. It has been solved casually." Committee member, the specific situation. Quicksilver held the back of his head and said, "It's just that 20,000 aliens were eliminated." Committee member. It was still Vision who told the committee members the specific situation intimately. He was frightened and left in a hurry. Everyone returned to the base tiredly. Only Tony was energetic and attended a press conference. He told the public about the recent movements of the Avengers base. This was one of the conditions he and the World Security Committee agreed on. He has a high degree of autonomy, but he must report the movements of the Avengers in a timely manner. Link took Fang back to the Sky King city. He wanted to ask the goddess Hylia, Pharaoh Dragon, about her life and death in person. As soon as he got to the Sky King city, he saw the Sky Princess trying hard to control her flight with the power of starlight, her body swaying. It's just that there is no breakthrough progress, so there is no certificate of order to receive. As Link approached, he suddenly felt 4 powers suddenly injected into his body, just like a piece of wood ignited by a concentrator. His whole body was burning. Bright white flames ignited from the bottom of Link's feet and directly wrapped his whole body. Midona hurriedly pulled Noi and Yair away, looking at Link in surprise. "Why are you burning?" Link shook his head in confusion. He only felt that his body seemed to have turned into an empty valley, and 4 sound waves echoed in his body. There was always strong energy constantly erupting from his body, and even he couldn't control it. The 3rd stage of the world will is out of control? Link was shocked. Because if the new power is not mastered quickly, it will be like a newborn baby being blindfolded and permanently losing its vision. The world will also be out of control, and it is more deadly than vision. The power of the world will is even stronger. Once it loses control in the body, it will have a great impact on Link. For example, it is the perspective of God. Once this skill is out of control, Link's mental power will be drastically consumed, and his own eyes will have abnormal illusions. Because of Pharaoh Dragon, he did not immediately feel the power brought by the third stage of the world will in his body. But it lost control so quickly. The four princesses saw the abnormality of Link's body and rushed up, but as soon as they approached, the white flames on Link's body burned even hotter. They could not get close. Seeing this, Princess Washan hurriedly said to Link, "Let's go find Goddess Hylia." Link nodded and rushed to the church first. The church in Hyrule Royal City became the latest place for Goddess Hylia to be resettled. Although she was quite dissatisfied with Link's frequent moving of her, Goddess Hylia still liked this church that was originally prepared for her. Link rushed to the church. But as soon as he was away from the four princesses, the strange white flames on his body suddenly weakened. With this strange question, he stepped into the church. The white flames that had already weakened burst into a stronger flame again when he walked into the church. Link, what on earth is going on? Exclamation mark. The statue of the goddess in the distance stood quietly in the center of the church. Suddenly, it also began to shine. Link, don't panic. This is the power of the third stage of the goddess will. It's called the resonance of light. Welcome to vote and subscribe to support the original work. Thanks to Lost Cube for supporting 100 starting coins. Chapter 431. Brilliant Force Field. The other princesses also came over at this time. As the four princesses approached, the flames on Link's body became more vigorous. Link turned into a big fireball, which made him quite helpless. He only heard the goddess Hylia continue. The new world will represents the awakening of new power in your heart. This layer of power is the resonance between you and the soul of the light creatures. Resonance? Link was deeply confused. The resonance of light will form a layer of sacred flames around you that greatly enhances your offensive and defensive capabilities. Your ability will be greatly improved. Of course, this power is not obtained in vain. You will consume a lot of light creatures that resonate with your power. When it comes to fighting, Link immediately understands. Midona glanced at Zelda and the other four and laughed. In other words, the four princesses will not only provide Link with power through training, even their own power can be borrowed by Link. The four princesses are too miserable. Link did feel that his power had increased significantly. The endless energy from the four princesses behind him poured into his body. The four princesses were close to Link and were not on guard. So the power of the body was absorbed by Link's body in the resonating resonance without hurting Link. And, is this too strong? Link felt that his strength had increased by at least 100 times. Not only was his body on fire, but he was also about to burn. Then he saw that the light on the crystal statue was slowly dimming. Goddess Hylia's tone suddenly became a little helpless. At the same time, my power also resonated with you. In other words, Link was not only absorbing the light power of the four princesses, but also the power of the goddess. Navi was stunned. How terrible. Link, you are so greedy. Link was surprised at the increase brought to him by the third level of the world will power, and, terrible. His previous skills and characteristics were all simple enhancements of strength or lethality. Even the more evil punishment from the sky did not make him too afraid. Only this resonance of light. Although the name is very ordinary and peaceful, but the effect is like this, harming others and benefiting oneself. Princess Washan rubbed her head. My body seems to be a little tired. Princess Dusk was also a little shaky. Seeing this, Link hurriedly asked himself, how can I control this power? I can't stop my body from absorbing your light energy. Goddess Hylia said calmly, the will of the world, the will of the goddess, the will of Hylia, my will. Not everyone is qualified to possess this ability. The reason you can't control the absorption of the power of me and the four Zeldas is because of the greed deep in your heart. The thirst for power and the desire for infinite enhancement are the roots of everyone's heart. Link was silent. In fact, even if the sacred flame on your body burns down, the four Zeldas and I will only be physically weak, not dead. Anyway, your mission is to protect us. You can use our power at will. Now, Link, your power has risen to several levels. Everyone will be afraid of you, and no one can compete with you. You even have the ability to replace me and become the master of this world. Link, Ganon is no longer your opponent. So, there is no need for you to stop your desire to seize us. Just let the sacred flame on your body continue to burn. The sacred flame on Link's body has made it impossible for Madonna, Fangire and others to get close. Even the gradually weakened Zelda and others hurriedly stepped back and moved away from Link. Due to the exponential growth of power, Link's aura suddenly changed, as if he was an ancient beast, an ancient god, or the vast universe. In short, after taking the power of light of the four Zeldas and the goddess Hylia as his own, Link no longer looked like the original brave boy. The four princesses felt strange about this Link. The strange Link turned around, and his eyes had turned pure white. The light of the sacred fire on his body even oppressed the goddess Hylia behind him, making it dim. Zelda paused, then forced a smile and said, "Of course we are willing to help you." Boom. That was all she said. Link's expression changed from indifference to confusion, and then from confusion to clarity. The white light covering his eyes faded, revealing his originally clear blue eyes. Link clenched his fists and looked at the four weak princesses. He said to the goddess Hylia in his heart, "Tell me how to abandon the resonance of light. Once the will of the world is awakened, it will not disappear." Link shook his head and began to forcibly cut off his connection with the four princesses and the goddess Hylia. Goddess Hylia advised him, "What are you doing? When the will of the world awakened in you, it was to make you replace me and protect this world. You have the power to replace me. Why do you refuse?" Link thought about it and said in his heart, "I don't know. I don't want this. I don't want the resonance of light." He was tongue-tied, and it was difficult for him to clearly describe his disgust or fear of the resonance of light. It even made him feel like Ganon was staring at him from behind. Gradually, the white flame on his body dimmed. The four princesses began to recover. Princess Washang asked doubtfully, "Link, we can do it. If our Mega Power can help you, it would be great." She saw Link shook his head resolutely, and the sacred flame on his body extinguished faster. Link instantly became dim. He completely sealed off the resonance of light in his body. Madonna murmured, "He has turned back into the usual wooden boy. Actually, I feel that this is good." Yaya was relieved, and she happily threw herself into Link's arms. She can get close to Link again. So happy Link hugged Yaya in a daze. The resonance of light just now made his strength rise to more than 100 times, and now it has dropped rapidly. The ups and downs of his own strength made even Link, who was as firm as his mind, quite confused. But he looked at the four princesses who had regained their spirits, and he did not regret this decision at all. But as soon as he thought of this, the sacred flame on his body burned again. Link was shocked, and turned his head to look at the crystal statue. He only heard the goddess voice in his ear, which sounded softer. "Congratulations, my child. You have obtained the real resonance of light." Who? Hearing the movement behind him, Link turned his head again, and saw the sacred flames burning on the four surprised princesses. The goddess's gentle voice continued, "The souls of light attributes resonate with each other, forming a brilliant force field that amplifies each other. This is the true effect of light resonance. Just now, it was actually a difficult test for you, and you did not live up to my trust in you, my child. Welcome to Vote and subscribe to support genuine works." Chapter 432 Avengers, Black-Hearted Enterprise. It turns out that even Goddess Hylia can have unexpected things happen. For example, now Link is furious. He stared at the goddess statue in anger. He lowered his voice and said, "A test? I didn't fail your trust in me." He turned around and left angrily. Madonna shrugged her shoulders, dragged Yaya and Nori to find Link. She turned back and smiled at Goddess Hylia and said, "Link really didn't fail your trust. This sentence is so strange. When you were testing him, you probably didn't trust Link that much." Goddess Hylia was stunned. She was obviously silent for a while, and saw that the four princesses were also preparing to chase Link. She immediately asked, "Why is Link angry?" The four princesses looked at each other, feeling helpless. Finally, only Zelda forced a smile and said, Let's say, if a girl often tests her boyfriend, her motive must be that she doesn't trust him, and the results of the test are mostly unsatisfactory." The Sky Princess whispered to Zelda, "This analogy is so strange. The Twilight Princess said, "We'll go and comfort Link now." After the four girls said goodbye to the goddess Hylia, they hurried to find Link. Only one crystal goddess was left standing quietly in the church. The glimmer on her body flickered, and she seemed to be very shaken. The four princesses quickly found Link, who was playing with Midona and Fang. The Washan princess smiled and said, "Are you still angry?" Link nodded seriously. Zelda burst out laughing, grabbed Link's wrist, and smiled brightly. "You really are like a child." Twilight Princess couldn't help laughing. I think Goddess Hylia is also a little confused. I guess this is the first time, since the creation of the world, that someone has been angry with her. Link said angrily, "I'm not happy." Sky Princess stood on tiptoe, smiled and touched Link's head. "There's no need to be like this." Link was actually angry with the goddess, and the four princesses were very surprised. They had to find ways to make Link happy. The Hanging Royal City is very big, but it's a bit too boring. So the princesses took Link to the Avengers base to play. Tony always has many interesting inventions, and Zelda is always the first to try them. In the huge royal city, there is only a lonely statue of Goddess Hylia left at this moment. She can't walk or move. She is just a touch of the highest solar light, and she is thinking hard. "You can't let me apologize to Link." When Link and the princesses flew down, Ed was discussing something with the Avengers. Ed put his hands on his hips with a look of anticipation. "What do you think of me?" "Us." Natasha poured herself a cup of coffee and sat on the sofa with her hands behind her back. "What do you mean?" Ed was eager to try. "It's about combat power. I'm very useful." Falcon understood what Ed meant. He smiled and said to Rogers, who was sitting on the sofa, "Ed also wants to be an Avenger." Banner smiled and said, "So that's the case. Of course you're welcome. You'd better ask Rogers and Tony first. They are the ones in charge." Ed looked at Rogers expectantly. Rogers squinted his eyes and examined him, which made Ed a little nervous. Is this kind-looking Captain America also so kind on the surface as in ours? Could it be that, because he killed too many symbiotes, he disdains Venom's strength? As a result, Rogers smiled and spread his hands. "Welcome. You risked abandoning your career and life to expose Drake's conspiracy. This quality and courage are enough to join us Avengers." "Yeah." Ed waved his hands vigorously and sat down with confidence. He smiled and said, "In that case, let's talk about the treatment of the Avengers." "Everyone, treatment?" Ed smiled and said, "Yes. I have joined your organization, and I'm an employee of your company. I have to go through life and death every day. The salary and treatment are both good. This is what I mainly ask." He looked at the layout of the base. Ed is a reporter and has seen a lot. Naturally, he knows that, although the building of the Avengers base is simple, it is actually expensive. The investor of the Avengers is Tony, who is also a generous man. As a fierce reporter who is dissatisfied with the darkness of the news industry, Ed has been worrying about work since graduation. He has been eating cheap and unhealthy fast food for a long time and wants to get a job that can make him rich quickly. Ed has begun to imagine how much the Avengers' monthly salary is. As a result, the Avengers, Rogers, Natasha, and Banner looked at each other. Finally, Quicksilver shouted indignantly, "I forgot about this. I haven't received a single salary from working for the Avengers until now, not to mention social insurance." Scarlet Witch said silently, "Social insurance? We don't even have American citizenship yet." Then looking at Vision with sympathy, Scarlet Witch took Vision's hand and said, "Vision is even more pitiful. She is only less than a year old. She has been exploited by the evil Avengers." Rogers also scratched his head in confusion and said to Ed, "That's right. The Avengers don't seem to have insurance and wages." Ed's eyelids twitched. "Black-hearted company?" Tony came out at this time, and he said quite dissatisfiedly, "Who is slandering me? How did the Avengers become a black-hearted company?" Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver stretched out their hands to Tony. "Pay your wages, pay your wages." Vision also smiled and pretended to stretch out his two little hands. Tony snorted, "Humph. You want wages? Dare you stretch your hands a little longer? You are too young and don't understand the significance of the Avengers to you." Tony put his hands on his waist and said confidently, "Letting you save the world is a blessing for you. You kids, you still want wages? No way, Ed." Tony Stark, "I misjudged you. You are an Iron Man on the surface, but you are actually an evil capitalist behind the scenes. Roger smiled and said, don't mention this for now. Let's welcome the new Avengers to join. Ed stood up hurriedly. Goodbye. Rogers hurriedly said, don't leave. The indignant fire of justice ignited in Ed's heart. The Avengers, this black-hearted organization, illegally exploited child labor, owed wages, and did not pay insurance. I want to expose them. The title has been thought of, The Darkness Within the Avengers. The underage Avengers asked Stark for their hard-earned money, and Stark shamelessly refused. At this time, Link and the princesses flew down on the enlarged Fang. I saw the base lobby in a mess. Quicksilver, the Nulai Witch, and Vision pestered Tony for money. Ed wanted to leave, but Natasha and Rogers were trying to keep addition. Zelda asked with a smile, what are you doing? Welcome to vote and subscribe to support the original work. Chapter 433, Suppressing Newcomers. Link and the others learned the reason for the chaos. So it's because of the salary. Zelda suddenly realized, and then looked at Link. She said with a smile, Link is also my subject, but since the fall of the Kingdom of Hyrule, I haven't paid him a salary. Midona pointed her finger, and now Link has to take care of you 4 Zeldas. A knight has to serve 4 princesses. What kind of corrupt kingdom is this? Ed was also confused. Link, you, forget it. I want to join the Avengers, but you can't let me work for nothing, okay? I still have dozens of expected bills to pay. After Natasha learned about it, she smiled and said to Jarvis, can you do this gentleman a favor? Jarvis immediately said, Mr. Ed's bills have all been paid by the Stark Group. Ed quickly thanked the ceiling. Roger smiled and said, Ed, although we don't have such a thing as salary here, but if you are short of money, just tell Tony and Tony will give you a large amount of startup capital. Of course, as long as you join the Avengers, you will hardly need money in the future. You lied to me. These 3 children have been asking Stark for money, but Stark refused to give it to them. Tony pushed Scarlet Witch and Vision away and wanted to leave, but Quicksilver turned on the phone and circled around Tony. Tony couldn't leave. Boss Stark, you are surrounded by me. Tony could only shout to Ed helplessly. Peter and Wanda are just 2 children. When they joined the Avengers, I negotiated with their parents. Their parents repeatedly warned me to discipline them well. Don't let them abuse their abilities and spend money. So I can't give them pocket money casually. So that's it. Ed scratched his head. What about Vision? Tony, Vision is just playing with them. Vision smiled shyly at addition. Ed. Tony shouted, Link, help me stop Quicksilver. Link nodded, and then launched an eye attack. He glared at Quicksilver, and he stopped with a dry laugh. He and Wanda were both young, and had been saved, and beaten by Link. So in the Avengers, they listened to Link the most, followed by Tony and Rogers. At this time, Pepper came out with sleepy eyes, flew to Tony's shoulder, and called to Tony tenderly, I want pocket money too. Tony's stiff face softened, and he said softly, okay, I'll give you as much as you want. Just buy whatever you want. Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch were immediately jealous of Pepper. This is not fair. Tony sneered, this is my fairness. Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch said dissatisfiedly, we are fighting and training hard, and Pepper only knows how to play. Pepper said innocently, Pepper is not just playing, I often go to Rogers to practice. Pepper went to Rogers to practice boxing, when he was free. It looked like Rogers was playing with a dog. Natasha smiled and said, you should understand the current situation. Pepper's status in the Avengers is much higher than yours. When he heard that Natasha seemed to be praising him, Pepper immediately became proud. He proudly put his hands on his hips and said, that's right. I'm awesome, right? Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver immediately felt that they were looked down upon by a big white carrot. The boy and girl looked at each other and said, how about, let's rebel? Quicksilver whispered, that's right. This oppressive organization has no need to exist anymore. Only the old people oppress the newcomers. No matter how hard the newcomers try, there is no way out. Scarlet Witch said seriously, that's right. We must unite the power of our new generation and completely subvert the Avengers. Then she pulled Vision over and said, we are all newcomers. Let's. Vision laughed dryly and refused, haha, I'd better forget it. She obediently retreated to Tony's side. Scarlet Witch looked pitiful, as if she had been abandoned by her girlfriend. Tony put his hands on his hips and raised his chin towards Ed. Look, these two naughty kids, can they do it? Ed smiled and said, okay, I will join the Avengers. Quicksilver was suddenly stunned and said to Scarlet Witch, Ed joined the Avengers. There are new people in the Avengers. Then we are old people. We can also bully the new people. Tony said contemptuously, aren't you planning to rebel? How can you be considered old people of the Avengers? Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch hurriedly said, we are joking. Tony continued to tilt his head and smiled, since you regret it again, and feel that you want to be an Avenger again. That is equivalent to rejoining the Avengers once again, so you are still new people. Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. They were confused by Tony's messy logic. Link sat on the sofa and drank juice silently. The most attentive Natasha noticed that Link was not happy and planned to be a caring big sister, so she asked softly, what's wrong? I feel that you are not very happy. The four princesses sat on both sides of Link. The Sky Princess told them the story about Link's anger with a smile. Link had a quarrel with the goddess. Everyone was shocked and at a loss. And Peppa shouted without thinking, the brave man is so powerful. Yair also shouted nonsense. Only Ed was confused. Goddess? Who is a goddess? Banner smiled and said, in this world, there are really gods. Gods of a higher level than Thor. Ed was still confused. As for the other Avengers, they were quite frightened. They knew very well what kind of existence Goddess Hylia was. Not to mention Thor. Goddess Hylia was a supreme existence that was several dimensions higher than this Marvel universe. It was not a powerful life form in the universe that was so arrogant that it called itself a god. It was a true god. Tony summarized the experience that the Sky Princess had just told. It means that the Supreme God gave a test to a brave man in the world, but the brave man said, you are worthy of it, and then ran away. Is that what it means? Midona nodded, yes. Rogers admired sincerely, you have a temper. Peppa still shouted, the brave man is so powerful. At this time, Hank suddenly ran out of the laboratory. He cheered, I succeeded. I succeeded. I filled the last theoretical defect. The depressed Link suddenly raised his head and opened his eyes wide. So fast. Tony and Banner are worthy of it. The project that originally took Hank and Hope 2 or 3 years to complete. It took only a few days to make a breakthrough. Welcome to Vote and Subscribe to support genuine works. Chapter 434 Time Misunderstanding. Old Captain America. Hank was very excited, so excited that he couldn't control himself. Even Midona got excited and shouted, is the quantum machine finished? Where is it? Take me to see it. I want to see it. Zelda smiled and said, it was only calculated with Jarvis, and the theory was completed. But nothing has been built in reality. Midona was disappointed. I also want to see what Scradina's cat looks like. Tony shook his head. This is a very low level response. Of course, you are from another world, so I'll spare you. At this time, Scott and Hope also ran out of the laboratory, but their faces were a little red. Scott rubbed his head with gritted teeth. When Jarvis hadn't finished the calculation, Hank had already shouted and rushed out of the laboratory. Although Hank was old, he was also a genius who was not inferior to Tony and Banner. This old genius only needed to see the final verification process to calculate the result before Jarvis. Scott and Hope waited for Jarvis to finish the calculation thoroughly before they started cheering. They couldn't help but hug each other. Hope screamed and laughed like a little girl. Great. I can see my mother. Scott smiled and said, congratulations. Hope realized that she and Scott were hugging each other and pushed them away. This woman was much stronger than Ant-Man. She pushed Scott against the wall and the back of his head made a clang. Scott rolled his eyes in pain. Hank couldn't help but hold Banner and Tony's hands and said solemnly, thank you. At the same time, I also thank you on behalf of my poor wife, who has been lost in that dark microcosm for too long. Tony smiled. We are in a cooperative relationship. The technology is shared, and no one owes anyone anything. Banner was also sincerely happy. We have found the door to the quantum world. What will the world behind the door be like? It's really exciting. Natasha said, just don't jump out of another door, Mamu. Hank smiled a little silly. This is really a difficult time. How long have we been working hard? What day is it now? He was busy all day and night, and his longing for his wife made him pay more attention than Tony and Banner. The whole process was sleepless, and forgot to eat, and only a few days passed. This originally strong and handsome old man had obvious deeper wrinkles. Tony glanced at the time on his phone and immediately cursed. Damn it. It's already this time. Tonight is the time for Klaus to contact Hydra. Rogers is most concerned about Hydra. He said, yes, it's today. I have asked Nick and Carlson to confirm the information of these Hydra remnants. I didn't expect that they had worked with Carter. Hank is a rebellious old man, but because of the help of the Avengers in the past few days, his attitude has obviously improved a lot. Especially when it comes to Tony, he no longer treats him as a thief's son. He has a rare smile on his face. I have also worked with Carter. Carter has always been very sad about your departure, even though she got married. Hope hurriedly touched her father's arm, and he didn't want him to continue talking because Roger's face was a little green. Looking at Rogers, Hank suddenly remembered something. That is Agent Carter, Roger's lover 70 years ago. The husband is very mysterious. Even SHIELD doesn't have any information about him, including Howard and Hank. They only know that Carter is married, and they don't know anything else. Rogers tried hard not to think about his old lover. He said, let's go to the press conference of Pyme's company today. Give them a surprise. Quicksilver nodded vigorously. Yes. Let's go and do something. Pepper also agreed with Quicksilver's point of view and cheered. Do something. Do something. Tony looked at Link with a smile. Do you want to go and have some fun with those Hydra guys? Link thought about it and decided to go with him. In fact, this plot is just the villain in the first Ant-Man movie, and it is particularly weak. It's a bit too much to let the Avengers go out in full force. But Link was furious because of the inexplicable test from the goddess Hylia. It's just right to deal with those bad guys for fun. Rogers laughed and said, Avengers, assemble. Hope's laughter suddenly became awkward. Klaus is so miserable. Hank hurriedly said, wait. So many people going there will definitely arouse vigilance. People all over the world are familiar with your faces. As soon as they saw you coming, they must have run away. Tony sat back on the sofa. Okay, it seems we have no hope. Natasha said, in this case, we can only let Link and Vision go with you. Hydra won't recognize them. Hank was puzzled. Link? Who doesn't know Link? Link suddenly transformed. His body quickly shrank and turned into a young blonde boy with lively eyes, just like a cat. Hank coughed. I forgot you can shrink. Quicksilver was eager to try. My sister and I don't know many people. We can go. Natasha glanced at the brother and sister. Don't forget that you were also a member of Hydra before. So, only Link and Vision followed Hank and others to Pyme's company. At night, Link and others sat in the car. Scott asked, Link, what should we do after we go in? Link said, find Klaus and Hydra and kill them. Scott, so violent. I like it. Link now looked like a child, sitting side by side with Midona in the back seat. Midona tried to help Link smooth his hair, but even with magic, Link's brilliant blonde hair was still messy. Midona asked, your hair was so difficult to deal with when you were a child. How come it became smooth when you grow up? Link shook his head. He didn't care about these things. For some reason, after coming here, Link suddenly sensed something, as if a pair of eyes were spying on him. But Link didn't feel any malice from it. Hank said, let's go in. Everyone left the car and walked into Pyme's company. Midona huddled in Link's shadow, and Link followed Hope. He looked around with a pair of big cat-like eyes, looking for people spying on him. So, he found a tall old man. He looked at him calmly. Link was puzzled. Who is this? This old man was older than Hank, but he looked handsome when he was young. He was also strong and had a straight back. He looked like someone Link knew. Link looked at the old man in the crowd. Then Link made a thumping sound and opened his eyes wide in surprise. This old man seemed to be the old Captain America Rogers. Welcome to Vote and subscribe to support the original work. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 435 Invisible Spoilers, the most deadly. Although Link sometimes seems mysterious and unpredictable in the eyes of other Avengers, as if he can predict the future. But in fact, there are many things that Link is unclear about. For example, what happened in Avengers 4? Link has no idea at all. He has a large blind spot about the future, especially about the quantum time machine and Thanos. So when the old Captain America appeared in front of him, Link's mind was in a mess. He looked up and said to Hope, "You go in first. With Vision here, you are safe." Vision clenched his two small fists. "That's right. I will protect you." Hope said to Link softly, "Don't get lost. Take care of yourself." When Link looked at her running away strangely, Hope blushed. "Oh, I treated him as a child again." Vision looked at little Link running away as fast as a little locomotive and was a little confused. What is Link going to do? Seeing Link coming quickly, the old Captain America turned and left. He came to a remote corner by the river, sitting on the grass. At this time, Link also rushed over. Midona floated out of Link's body and looked at the old man in confusion. "Who are you? Why do you smell like Rogers?" The old man raised his head and looked at Link quietly. "I want to know, who are you?" Midona pointed at herself. "Me, Midona." Then she pointed at Link. Link, everyone in the world knows." The old man shook his head. "No, in the original timeline, there is no such person as Link. There is no Ganon either." Link was shocked. He was completely confused. Midona shouted, "The original timeline? You said it's so hard to understand." The old man slowly said, "In the original timeline, Ethan, Tony's savior, died. The New York Wall left a shadow on Tony, leading to the birth of Ultron. In the incident of the Dark Elves, Thor's mother suffered an accident, and Strange did not get in touch with the Avengers until a very late period of time. It was 3 years later that Hank built the quantum machine." Link's face became more and more strange, because what the old man said were all plots in the original universe. The old man stared at Link with a deep and confused look. "I'm Captain America Steve Rogers. I have experienced everything, and in everything I have experienced, there is no you, Link. Why are you here?" Link was confused. He was confused and didn't know what the old man meant. As a result, Midona became impatient. She felt that she couldn't communicate with the old man. She directly used the power of the reality stone and hit the old man's head hard. The old man's eyes were alert in an instant and he dodged quickly, but his body shook and there was a cracking sound. The old man's face froze. His waist twisted. Bang! Midona knocked the old man unconscious with the reality stone. Link looked at Midona in confusion. "What are you going to do?" Midona pouted. "This old man speaks so strangely. Why don't we just use the reality stone to explore his memory?" "The reality stone can explore other people's memories?" Link expressed confusion. At this time, Nori suddenly appeared. "Leave it to me." Nori rushed into the old man's mind. Midona controlled the reality stone, and the other particles simulated a figure in the air. The memories in the old man's mind began to appear. Link smiled in surprise. "How did you do it?" Midona smiled proudly and said, "There are really many things to be mined in the Infinity Stones. This is a small function I found in the reality stone. How about it? It's amazing. Praise me." Link smiled and touched Midona's head. Then he looked through the old man's memory. Then he was stunned. He understood the true origin of this old man who claimed to be Captain America. Note that the following involves spoilers for Avengers 4. The old man is the Captain America of the original time and space. After the plot of Avengers 3 ended, Captain Marvel rescued Tony and Nebula, and everyone killed to a remote planet. Thor chopped off the head of the disabled Thanos. Then in the past few years, Ant-Man Scott came back from the quantum space and found Rogers. Tony and Banner created a time machine. The Avengers planned to collect 6 Infinity Stones to regain the half of their lives that were turned into ashes by Thanos' snap. Then came a series of collecting stones. The red-haired beauty died. This also attracted the attention of Thanos in the past timeline. He traveled through time and space to the future and brought a large army to destroy the remaining Avengers. After a fierce battle, Thanos died, and Rogers was responsible for returning the Infinity Stones. In the end, he simply went back to the past, completed his date with Carter, and lived happily. Rogers slowly aged. In the 20th century, the old Rogers sat at home watching TV, watching the young Stark facing the screen, saying in a tone of fearlessness, "I'm Iron Man." The old Rogers couldn't help but smile slightly. But what happened next was beyond his expectations. First, a large number of red-skinned pig-like monsters appeared inexplicably and attacked the world. Then there was a red moon. The old Rogers was at a loss. Then a long-haired boy with blonde hair frequently appeared on TV, living with Tony and interfering with the original plot of the Avengers everywhere. Because of the appearance of this blonde boy, the losses caused by various accidents on the Earth in the original plot were basically reduced to the minimum. The New York War was so crazy, but because of the timely evacuation, the casualties were extremely small. But at the same time, the Earth and even the universe became more dangerous. Old Rogers couldn't sit still, so he came to Link to ask in person. After looking through the memories of old Rogers, Link smiled strangely comfortable. He has been anxious about what will happen in Avengers 4. He was afraid that his appearance would cause some trouble. Something happened to help him in times of trouble. Someone came to give him a spoiler. It was Captain America himself from the original timeline who came to spoil Link in person. Link couldn't help but squat down to check on Rogers, who was knocked unconscious by Midona. He said sorry for Midona in his heart. This old Rogers seemed to have traveled back in time and waited for more than 70 years just to let Link know the plot of Avengers 4. Learning the plot of Avengers 4 is extremely important to Link. The most important thing is to know the exact strength of Thanos. Can I break Rogers' vibranium shield? Can I do it now? Link clenched his fist. Welcome to Vote and Subscribe to support genuine works. Chapter 436 Rogers, who is stronger, Thanos or Link? On Earth, when the first red moon appeared, Nick asked Rogers, "Captain America, how do you feel about the new era?" Rogers looked at the slowly rising red moon and sighed. What a mess. He was not the only one who found it hard to accept. In the hospital, the old Rogers accompanied the equally old Carter. When he looked at the rising blood moon, he had the same expression. What the hell is this? Carter also shook his head blankly. The above is what the old Rogers recalled in his dream. Then in his memory, the ward where he and Carter appeared began to shake. Then a feeling of pain appeared on his head. Then the old Rogers woke up. It was the cute smiling face of little Link. It was cute, but the little guy had just attacked him. So Rogers jumped up quickly, did a backflip, and landed on the ground, so agile that he didn't look like a centenarian at all. The old Rogers felt it slightly, and realized that the memory in his brain had been touched by someone. He glared at little Link. What are you going to do? Link looked at Navi with a smile, and Navi floated over happily, and said to the old Rogers, "There should be news about us on the internet, right? We are from another world, chasing a demon who fled here. So the experience is different from what you encountered." But the old Captain America was still very vigilant. He stared at Link. "You should know from my memories. My companions paid a huge price to protect this world. So I went back to the past and watched my best friend being controlled by Hydra, Tony's parents being killed, etc. But I couldn't help but change it. I have been patient for so long. But I saw you changing the timeline at will." Midona stared at the old Rogers. "Don't you want us to change the direction of this world? Please." Young Rogers already has a bit of stubbornness, and it turns out that he is even more rigid when he gets old. Canon. It was Canon who came to this world first, and our goal is to stop Canon from destroying this world line. Although Rogers is old and his physical ability is not as good as before, but he still secretly used Carter's network of connections to investigate Link's deeds. He even knew what Link looked like when he became smaller, so he also knew about Ganon's deeds. But for Link, who appeared out of thin air, the old Rogers still maintained a considerable vigilance. "Then why did you read my memory? What is your purpose?" Navi helped Link explain. "Link knows about Thanos. So, according to your memory, check Thanos' true strength." Old Rogers stared at Link. "Do you still want to fight Thanos alone? He is the most terrible enemy I have ever seen. Even my vibranium shield was broken, and this is without the Infinity Gauntlet. It took Tony's life to destroy it. Not only that, you also saw it. This unsatisfactory ending is also the only winning ending among 14 million results. If you participate in it, it will only lead to the possibility of no turnaround. Midona pouted, this guy is so stubborn. But Link can understand the anxiety of Old Rogers. Because it is too difficult to defeat Thanos, Old Rogers is worried that if Link intervenes, the 1 in 14 million possibility will also disappear. Old Rogers watched Bucky suffer, Tony's parents die, and Natasha's tragedy, etc. He endured the pain of not saving them, just for the future victory. He was naturally quite resistant to some of the things Link did. Link shook his head. He wanted Rogers to be at ease. And let Link sit and watch Natasha sacrifice herself, and Tony snap his fingers? Just to ensure victory over Thanos? Forget it. Link couldn't do such a thing. The Ancient One had tested it. Link was not good at making choices. And Thanos was not Link's real enemy. Link's real enemy would always be the terrifying Demon King lurking and sleeping at the edge of the universe, Ganon. Midona said to Link, come on, show your strength and let this old American know how powerful you are. Link nodded. Old Rogers' heart sank. What does this mean? Is Link going to kill him? Because of Midona's attack just now, Old Rogers' distrust of Link intensified. He was not familiar with Link and didn't know what kind of person Link was. He was always worried that this weird boy had some other secrets that he couldn't tell. Therefore, Link not only had to show his ability to defeat Ganon, but also to eliminate the Old Rogers' vigilance against him. He stretched out a hand to the sky and silently called in his heart. Faye suddenly asked in his heart, Master, Faye is willing to fight for you. Her tone was a little uneasy, but Link rejected Faye and continued to call. Soon, Roger's eyes were covered with surprise, because a white dot appeared in the night sky with a bang. Something like a meteor fell into Link's small palm. Thor's hammer. Only warriors with noble character are qualified to hold it. Little Link smiled and pointed the hammer at the Old Rogers. The moment Link held Thor's hammer, the Old Rogers let go of his vigilance against Link. Old Rogers said sincerely, being recognized by Thor's hammer, I'm willing to believe in your character. However, Thanos' strength. Midona said impatiently, what Thanos or not? So annoying. Is he as powerful as Link? Navi said weakly, Link can't split the vibranium shield with one sword. Midona said seriously, have you forgotten Link's teeth that can eat gods and buddhas? They can bite vibranium to pieces. Old Rogers. Captain America rarely showed a look of fear. Navi said helplessly, teeth are an exception, okay. Link can't fight Thanos with his mouth, right? Midona cheered Link up and said, how do you know, if you don't try? Let's go find Thanos to fight. It's not time yet? Oh, go ahead. Let's go Link. I'll cheer for you. When Midona playfully encouraged Link to find Thanos' Royal City 4 Park, Old Rogers asked Link directly, who is stronger, you or Thanos? Link thought for a moment and said, Thanos. In the memory of Old Rogers, Thanos in Avengers 4 was so powerful that Link was deeply impressed. He could break the vibranium shield and fight against a group of Avengers. But Link couldn't even break the vibranium shield. Old Rogers looked a little disappointed, and he continued to ask, then why did you? Link interrupted Old Rogers and said firmly, even if Thanos is stronger than me, I will still be the winner in the end. Not to mention that he has accumulated powerful strength, the triangle of courage, the goddess will, etc. Even if it is Link, who has just traveled to Marvel and has 3 blood cells, as long as he is given a sword and a shield, Link is still confident that he can defeat Thanos. Welcome to Vote and subscribe to support genuine works. Chapter 437, Centenarian. Let's not talk about the conversation between Link and Old Rogers. In order to find the whereabouts of other Infinity Stones, in fact, only one Soul Stone is missing. Thor accidentally entered a strange planet. The planet was shrouded in black clouds. Due to the attack of unknown underwater creatures, the land was in ruins, and demonized zombies were all over the planet. Only a few remaining city-states were barely surviving. Thor held Thor's hammer and looked at the zombie octopus monsters surrounding him. Their heads and tentacles were full of eyeballs, and countless tentacles were waving like a group of snakes. Haha, although I'm not picky about food, I don't have much appetite for seafood like you. I saw a large number of octopus zombie monsters quickly ready to attack. Thor laughed loudly, full of heroic spirit, and planned to fight to his heart's content. Thor's hammer in his hand whirred, containing extremely strong electrical energy. Just as Thor was about to release his powerful and violent attack, thud, Thor's hammer suddenly broke away from Thor's fingers, rushed directly into the sky, and turned into a star and disappeared. Thor. Monsters. Thor was sweating coldly. Damn it. Link, why are you summoning Mjolnir at this time? It's fatal. Thor's face showed fear, and he laughed dryly. My weapon has some urgent matters to deal with. How about I will fight you again when she comes back. Monsters. Monsters. Roar, 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 roar. Thor screamed. Link didn't even realize that he had really tricked Thor. His determination touched the old Rogers. The old Roger shook his head. Forget it. I'm old and don't want to care about too many things. I can see that you have strong abilities. Try to do the right thing. Link smiled, and then he realized that the hammer in his hand was struggling, and knew that it was Thor who was summoning, and he was very anxious. So Link threw Thor's hammer into the sky again, letting it find its owner. Goo 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 goo. Thor was dragged into the black ocean by these violent octopus zombie monsters. Thor was filled with dirty water and his eyes bulged out. These monsters wanted to wash Thor clean before eating him. Link, I will beat you up next time I see you. Thor swore sadly. Boom. There was an unknown noise in Pime's company. It seemed that a battle was going on inside. Link looked over. Midona said, Link, we should go in to help. Link nodded. Then he looked at old Rogers. Midona asked with a smile, Grandpa Rogers, do you miss the old fighting time? Old Rogers smiled and said, no, I'm covered with old injuries now, and it is very uncomfortable when it is cloudy. Midona bewitched, do you want to fight again? Looking at Link's clear blue eyes, old Rogers said seriously, I wish I could. So the old and the young quickly rushed into the chaotic Pime's company. At this time, Hank and Hope were surrounded by Hydra soldiers. Klaus stared at Hope gloomily, you betrayed me. Just like your father. Klaus pointed a gun at Hank. One shot, you're dead. Don't worry, I won't feel guilty at all. At this time, Ant-Man Scott's body suddenly grew larger and kicked Klaus away. Scott said, it feels great to kick you in the ass. Bullets immediately poured towards Ant-Man. Ant-Man became smaller again and ran quickly on the ground. At the same time, he used the controller on his ear to summon a large number of ants, which began to drill into the clothes of the Hydra soldiers and bite them. Klaus gritted his teeth and shot Hank. Hope rushed to her father to help him block the bullet. In front of her, a figure also appeared. Vision opened his mouth, grasped the opportunity of the flying bullet, and gently closed his jaw. He bit the hot ammunition. Vision muttered vaguely, it seems that mighty Thor also very hard. Hope and Hank were scared to death. Klaus looked at the blue-haired girl who quickly blocked his way and angrily asked, who are you? Vision answered seriously, my name is Vision, and I'm an Avenger. Hearing the word Avenger, the Hydra, whose body was twisted by the ants, hurriedly fired at Vision and others. But before they could press the trigger, the mind gem on Vision's head began to work, flashing a strange yellow light. The surrounding Hydra and Klaus suddenly knelt on the ground. They lost the desire to fight. Scott grew big again and asked in confusion, what's wrong with them? Vision smiled and said, it's the mind gem that has affected their minds. They are very depressed and don't want to fight. This group of people are very weak inside, so they are very easy to disturb. Klaus knelt on the ground and cried silently, I'm a loser. I'm still bald. I hate being bald, but I don't have any other hairstyle to use. The Hydra around him also knelt on the ground and muttered to himself, my life is not as good as a feather. I'm useless. I can't get a driver's license. Fought with my girlfriend again. I don't have a girlfriend. Oh my god. Scott gave Vision a thumbs up in shock. You are the strongest Avenger. With 2 thumbs, Vision heard Hank and Hope behind him also fall down. Vision smiled awkwardly. It seems that the power is a bit too strong. Hank murmured, really, you only know how to bully people. You didn't apologize for stealing things. Your son is mean to me. I feel so wronged. Hope shed tears. I miss my mother. Scott laughed. I want to take a sneak shot of their ugly faces with my phone. But then his expression became blank, and he also knelt on the ground. He supported himself with his hands, looking like a plaster cast who had lost hope. Vision said awkwardly, oh no. Scott murmured in tears, I hate eating vegetables. I miss my daughter. Hope hit me so hard. Vision. At this moment, old Rogers and Link rushed in. They encountered a bunch of Hydra in the corridor. The Hydra opened fire at Rogers and the others without saying a word. Link snapped his fingers casually. The Hydra made a squeak, and the gun in his hand slipped out of his hand due to discharge. Then, the Hydra saw a 100-year-old man rushing up quickly. Although his hair was grey, his face was full of wrinkles and age spots. But his eyes were still bright. Bang! The iron fist of the centenarian. The jaw of a Hydra was dislocated on the spot. Soon, the old Rogers lowered his body and swept his leg. There was a big crack. The old Rogers pounced on it like a leopard, killing everyone. Welcome to Vote and subscribe to support the genuine work. Chapter 438 Long Live Hydra. After being disarmed by Link's thunderbolt, these Hydras were knocked to the ground by old Rogers, twisting and turning on the ground. Navi shouted, "Wow." As expected of Captain America, even at the age of 100, he could still beat up a group of Hydras. Old Rogers stood up, his back straight. He looked at Link, who was a little surprised, calmly, and smiled faintly. "Oh my god. I'm about to break. Link, Madonna." Link hurriedly supported old Rogers. Even with the blessing of Super Soldier Serum, he couldn't resist the erosion of time. It was very scary that old Rogers could reach this level. Old Rogers smiled in front of him. "How is it, kid?" Thump, thump, thump. At this time, a team of fully armed Hydras with guns ran out from the corner. Old Rogers whispered, "It would be great if there were shields." The Hydras shot at old Rogers and Link. Old Rogers immediately rolled to the left, holding Link's arm with his left hand, trying to take Link to dodge. Swish. Link shook his arm and easily broke free from old Rogers' hand, and his hand was shining. A transparent crystal shield appeared in the hand of young Link. With a backhand wave, bang, bang, the bullet deflected 180 degrees and reflected into the chest of the Hydra, which took less than a second. This wave of Hydra also died instantly. Old Rogers was just like Tony when he first saw Link use the shield counter. His expression was very surprised. If you say when Link is the most dazzling, it must be when he uses the shield counter. After destroying the enemy, Link took the crystal shield that was too big for him and noticed the gaze of old Rogers. He felt a little uncomfortable and hid the crystal Hylia shield behind his back, saying childishly, "I won't give it to you." Old Rogers. So stingy. Madonna looked at Link with a smirk. This guy, when he didn't have the Master Sword and the Hylian shield, he often borrowed Thor's Mjolnir and Rogers' Vibranium shield by force. Now he is afraid that old Rogers covets his Hylian shield. Old Rogers said, "Let's go quickly. There are more enemies here than I expected. It's probably the butterfly effect caused by your influence on time and space. Scott and the others may be in danger." Link said, "It's okay. Vision is protecting them." Old Rogers wondered, "Vision? I didn't see him follow him." Madonna said, "Vision is a girl." Old Rogers stared at Link. "Why did you change Vision's personality?" Wonder. In the original Time and Space, Vision and Scarlet Witch were lovers. Now Vision has become a girl, and Scarlet Witch's future husband is gone. Navi said, "Vision and Wanda are good friends. They often play together and say bad things about Link together. Is this true?" Link stared at Navi. These two little girls. Link decided to find a chance to ask them clearly. Link and old Rogers rushed to find Ant-Man and others. Because his short legs were too slow. After he became smaller, Link changed again and became the Shadow Wolf form that Navi and Madonna liked the most. Seeing Link in front of him suddenly changed again and became a big wolf with shiny hair. Old Rogers' mouth twitched. Isn't it too strange that these Avengers appeared out of thin air? The information he stole only knew the existence of Link and Ganon. He knew that Link could transform into a wolf, but it still felt quite strange to see it with his own eyes. They quickly looked for the conference room where Ant-Man and others were. There was only Vision standing in the center. The people around him knelt on the ground in dejection, whispering or crying. Madonna asked strangely, "What did you do to them?" Vision smiled slightly modestly, "I used the power of the Mind Stone to pierce their self-confidence." Then her eyes shifted to old Rogers, and her pupils shrank rapidly. Vision is the personification of the Mind Gem. She can see the soul through the appearance of others. She immediately saw the essence of the old Rogers from his face. So she asked Link in a daze, "Did Boss Stark and Banner throw the captain into the time machine?" "Shh," Madonna said to Vision seriously, "this is a secret. Don't ask too much." When he came here just now, the old Rogers asked Link not to mention his existence to other Avengers. He was worried that there would be some hidden dangers. Oh. Vision trusted Link and Midona very much, so he nodded seriously and stopped asking. Vision cancelled the interference of the mind gem on these people. Hydra regained its combat power, but when they were about to take the gun to continue the crime, a large amount of lightning was released from Link's wolf body, accurately knocking them out, while Hank, Hope and others were not hurt at all. Hank and Hope stood up crying, "I can't stand it." Vision hurriedly smiled and said, "It's okay, people have to learn to overcome fear." Hank wiped his tears and shouted at Vision with tears in his eyes, "I mean you, when you released this ghost power, didn't you notice that the leader of Hydra had already run away?" Vision, huh? I could only hear the sound of the plane starting up faintly. Ant-Man Scott hurriedly stood up, quickly shrank again, rode on a flying ant, and hurried over. Midona was also quite excited. "Link, let's catch the bad guys." Well, Link cheered up and quickly followed Scott to fly out. So at the scene, Vision and Old Rogers looked at each other. Because Old Rogers was very curious about the female Vision, he looked at her carefully, which made Vision very uncomfortable. Hank finally managed to calm down and looked at the old Captain America. "Who is this?" The Old Rogers smiled faintly. "I'm just a homeless man." Vision silently complained in his heart, "Why do I feel like you're going to take out a pair of ultra glasses after you say this?" Hank suddenly saw a Hydra stumbling in from the door behind the Old Rogers, ready to kill the Old Rogers with a gun, shouting, "Long live the Hydra." Hank hurriedly shouted, "Be careful." The Old Rogers smiled. He quickly turned around, grabbed the Hydra's wrist, twisted it hard, and the Hydra screamed, and the gun fell to the ground. The Old Rogers shouted, carried the Hydra's arm, and pressed it directly to the ground. The iron fist smashed down, and the Hydra fainted immediately. Seeing this scene, Hope touched his father's arm. "Dolly, look at this old man's body." Hank was furious. Parents compare their children with other children, and children will get angry. The same situation happens to parents, who will also get angry. Hank said angrily, "My fists are too much for ordinary young people." Welcome to Vote and subscribe to support genuine works. Chapter 439 Old Captain America, I want to strangle myself now. Scott rode the ant and flew into the sky. As soon as he got outside, he was blown into the sky by the strong wind. Soon he was gently caught by a small hand. Then Scott saw Midona's big eyes. Midona smiled and said, "You are too slow riding the ant. You are not as fast as the wolf I ride." Scott shouted happily, "Wow. Go. By the way, what are you going to do?" Midona smiled and said, "Just let Link knock the plane down head on." Sturk's eyes twitched. Hydra member Carson was in the helicopter, watching a gray-skinned girl riding a wolf approaching quickly. He risked his life, leaned out, and shot at Link and Midona. But Link just shook and swayed and easily dodged it. Link instantly accelerated and crashed into the Hydra helicopter head-on. Dang. The helicopter was immediately knocked away by Link. Scott was so scared that he yelled, "It's cruel." Then Link focused his eyes on the propeller of the plane and activated his telekinesis. The propeller of the helicopter was immediately twisted and Link's magnetic gripper, and the helicopter fell straight down. Scott sat on the ant and poked his head out of Midona's hand to find the place where the helicopter fell, and muttered, "This is close to my ex-wife's house. Don't hit them." Midona said, "Just don't be such a badass." "Oh. God." Scott screamed like a vase blonde in the movie, covering his face with his hands, because the place where the helicopter fell happened to be his previous yard. Midona cursed, "Crow's mouth. Link, please." Link rushed down quickly caught up with the helicopter, landed into the helicopter, and then immediately changed into a teenager. He pushed the falling helicopter away with both hands. At this moment, Ant-Man's daughter Cassie just poked her head out of the window. She opened her eyes wide and saw Link holding up the helicopter and slowly placing it in her yard. When Cassie saw Link landing on the ground, she immediately cheered, "It's Link." Then she hurriedly ran downstairs in her pajamas and slippers. Ant-Man's ex-wife Maggie, who was watching TV at home, asked quickly, "Baby, where are you going?" Cassie jumped happily, "Link is here at our house." Maggie couldn't help laughing and said, "Baby, Link is a big bad guy now." And he doesn't have time to come to our house to play with you. Cassie pointed outside the window with a serious expression. Yes, Link is really beating up the bad guys in our yard. At this time, Hydra Carson's wasp suit shrank and slipped into Maggie's house. When he saw Cassie, he instantly grew bigger, hugged Cassie in his arms, pointed at Maggie with the mechanical arm behind him and roared, "If you don't want to die, listen to me, Maggie." Scott and Link also rushed in quickly. Seeing his daughter being held hostage by Carson, Scott breathed a sigh of relief. He said to Carson, "Don't be impulsive, or I will tear you apart." Before Carson could say anything, Maggie started to yell at her ex-husband, "Scott, it's you again. You always bring trouble." The only one who was not panicking at the scene was Ant-Man's daughter Cassie. She looked at Link with her mouth wide open. She didn't care that she was being kidnapped. She smiled and greeted Link. "Mom, it's not Dad who brought trouble, it's Link." "Link, will you rescue me?" Scott hurriedly said. "Kathy baby, don't worry. Link and I promise not to let this Carson hurt you." Carson smiled evilly. "Really? You are such a big talker. Biu." Carson pulled a hair off Cassie's head. Cassie screamed in pain, and Carson said arrogantly to Scott and Link, "I have already pulled a hair off this child. What can you do to me?" Carson's superb operation made Scott and Link stunned. Midona said with disdain, "Why are Hydra full of weirdos?" Carson glared at Link. "What are you going to do? This is the weakness of a hypocritical nice guy like you." Midona turned her eyes to Link, only to see that Link was amused by the stupid provocation of this Hydra. He walked forward. Carson suddenly became nervous. "Don't come any closer, or I." Scott and Maggie hurriedly shouted, "Link, don't." As a result, when he walked in front of Carson, Link suddenly stretched out his hand and said, "Give me the child." Carson was about to step back and glared at Link. "What are you kidding?" Suddenly, he heard Link smirk. Link whispered, "Long live Hydra." Carson. He was stunned, and suddenly he was ecstatic. Link is also a comrade. Hydra is awesome. They have infiltrated the Avengers. Long live Hydra. So he stuffed Cassie into Link's arms without hesitation. Link smiled again. Squeak. Link covered Cassie's eyes, and Carson in front of him was covered by electric light. The wasp suit was destroyed by the current. Carson fell straight down. Cassie was covered by Link's eyes, but she still asked Link happily, "Can I ask you for an autograph?" Link nodded. Maggie and Scott hurriedly took Cassie from Link's arms, and the three of them hugged each other. Cassie smiled innocently. Scott closed his eyes and murmured, "Great. Thank you, Link." He didn't have time to finish his words. The door was pushed open again, and Maggie's current husband, Police Officer Paxton, who had always been unhappy with Scott, rushed in and shouted anxiously, "Maggie, Cassie, are you okay?" Then he was stunned, watching Scott, Maggie, and Cassie hug each other. Paxton scratched his head to see if there was any grass on his head. From then on, it was a family reunion. Afterwards, Link said goodbye to the old Rogers. Navi asked on behalf of Link, "How about meeting you in this timeline?" Anyway, Link has already followed this timeline, so I'm not afraid of you talking about the future. But the old Rogers smiled and shook his head. "No need. I don't want to see the Rogers of today. In fact, I hate him a little bit." Midona wondered, "Hate yourself? Why?" The old Rogers covered his eyes with his pale hands with age spots and said awkwardly, "I can't stand it. The mistakes I made when I was young. Think about it, watching my young self develop feelings for Carter's niece. How can I not be embarrassed? Sharon, Carter's niece, grew up under my watch. What a sin. How can I be worthy of Carter in heaven? I wish I could strangle myself now." Link, Midona. In the Avengers base, Rogers suddenly felt a chill all over his body. He muttered, "It's time to call Sharon to say hello. Welcome to Vote and subscribe to support genuine works." Chapter 440 The Four Divine Beasts Attack. Wind, Thunder, Water, and Fire. A few days later, Tony, Banner, Hank and other scientists were still busy with the research and development of quantum machines. Even when they were eating, they used some strange professional terms, and others could not interrupt. So while Tony and others were discussing heatedly, Rogers, Scott and others were eating silently on the other side. At this time, keeping silent would not expose your low IQ. Hope listened to some of Tony's insights and couldn't help but admire softly. "He is really a genius. Scott raised his head from the lunchbox, his heart full of vigilance, staring at Hope, and whispered, "You are not in love with him, are you? He is a playboy." Hope rolled his eyes at Scott charmingly. Recently, Dad Hank was busy making quantum machines and didn't notice that his daughter had been hooked up by Scott. Of course, it wasn't just Tony who was having fun. "Link, I made a lot of delicious food for you. How about this? Do you like it? I'm so happy. Don't look at me. There's nothing dirty on my face. I just like to see you look satisfied when you eat." The four princesses gathered around Link. They didn't eat themselves, but fed Link with great interest. Seeing Link eating seriously, the four princesses smiled dimly. It can be seen that they are all very happy. Pepper was also beside him, picking up a lemon with a toothpick. After taking a bite, he immediately covered his mouth with his two little hands. "Wow, sir." After shaking his head, he picked up another small piece of lemon and tried again. Midona was comforting Yaya, who was sulking. Yaya has grown up and matured. She no longer pesters Link like before. Once someone approaches, she will bite them. But seeing so many Zeldas surrounding Link, Yaya still feels very unhappy, very angry, and wants to bite people. From an outsider's point of view, this scene presents a dreamy pink color. It is difficult for outsiders to get close. Banner leaned back in his chair leisurely. "What a peaceful time. I hope it can last forever." Scarlet Witch and Vision were so scared by this that they shouted, "Oh, something bad will happen if you say that." Banner smiled faintly. "Kids, this is reality, not a movie or a novel. The earth will not change just because of my words, bang fuck." Banner's face changed. "I should have stuffed my mouth with a sandwich." There was a loud noise, and the ground shook violently. The Avengers stood up in a hurry, alert to all directions. The only ones still sitting on the chairs were Link, Zelda and others. Their faces were also uncertain. Tony shouted, "Jarvis." Jarvis immediately replied, "Sir, no unknown power source has been detected around." Link slowly ate the food on the plate and whispered, "Because the power comes from the other side of the earth." Tony looked at Link seriously. "Since you said that, is Ganon attacking?" Zelda said, "No. Ganon is now temporarily sealed. At least during this period of time, he can no longer act to cause harm." Boom. There was another violent earthquake. Jarvis said a very serious sentence in a calm voice. "This wave of earthquakes is global." Tony immediately ordered, "Use my satellite to check the source of the earthquake." "Could it be that alien monsters have invaded the earth?" Jarvis asked calmly. "Sir, have you forgotten? Your satellite has been destroyed by the fourth Princess Zelda." Tony covered his face. "I forgot again." Twilight Princess hurriedly said, "I'm sorry. I will compensate you." Tony forced a smile. "I know you are a rich woman, but I don't need your money." Link and Zelda looked at each other. Two consecutive global shocks made them feel particularly familiar. Link had some guesses in his mind, and he could see that Zelda had the same opinion. Pepper looked up at the ceiling stupidly. "I remember something like this happened in Hyrule." Rogers looked at Link. "Is it another monster from Hyrule?" Boom, boom. Two more violent shocks followed. Banner's face looked grim. "Is it over yet? I just said a word. Is it necessary to make such a big fuss for me?" At this time, the four heroes living in Link's body, Mipha, Libba, Darkle, and Urzapo, appeared behind Link with a blue soul flame. Princess Washang said, "Did you notice it too? It seems that it was indeed those guys." Natasha said, "What exactly are you talking about?" Mipha looked at everyone and said calmly and seriously, "We are most familiar with this kind of fluctuation. This is the breath of the four sacred beasts of Hyrule." "Sacred beast?" Tony held Pepper in the air. Pepper tilted his head innocently. Tony asked, "A sacred beast like Pepper?" Pepper exclaimed in surprise, "Am I a sacred beast? I don't even know it myself." Zelda said seriously, "The sacred beasts that Mithra is talking about are the four sacred beasts that guard the peace of Hyrule and fight against Ganon. They are the wind beast Valmedo, the prototype of my bird Izzet, the water beast Valruta, the fire beast Valludania, and the thunder beast Valnapolis." Libba snorted softly. "The four of us died inside the four beasts when Ganon attacked 100 years ago. We know very well what noises they make when they stamp their feet, such as shouting and noises." At this time, media from various countries have captured the scene of the incident. Jarvis immediately turned on the video. On the screen, there was a huge creature in each of the 4 regions of the earth. The size of each beast was equivalent to a city. Wamidu, the wind beast. A giant bird flew in the sky, blocking out the sun wherever it passed. The city below fell into a dark shadow. Passenger planes passing by were crashed one after another. The sky became the private territory of the wind beast Wamidu. Waruta, the water beast. A giant elephant stood in the sea. It stretched its neck and roared like a dragon, stirring up strong winds and huge waves. The ships on the sea disintegrated and sank one after another. Waludania, the fire beast. A giant lizard stood on a high mountain. Wherever it passed, everything under its feet immediately melted into magma. A majestic mountain range suddenly became a sea of fire and gradually spread to further away. Vanopolis, the beast of thunder. A giant camel walked in the rainforest. The sky was filled with dark clouds. Lightning struck the ground from the sky like a harpoon inserted into the water. Thunder and lightning were everywhere. Just as Link and others were enjoying lunch, the world had changed and fell into a disaster. Welcome to Vote and Subscribe to support genuine works. Chapter 441 Heroic Weapons. Mipha and the others looked at the violent 4 beasts. Just from the red light in the eyes of these huge creatures, it can be seen that it is Ganon's will that is controlling them. 100 years ago, it was because of the sudden rebellion of the 4 beasts that the 4 heroes died. Hyrule was destroyed. Link fought alone and finally died of exhaustion. It was Ganon who used the power of the 4 beasts to break Hyrule's defense plan for thousands of years with lightning speed. If Zelda hadn't awakened at the last moment, saved Link, and went alone to seal Ganon, I'm afraid Hyrule has become the end of the world. Now Ganon is sealed, but his malice towards the world has not been reflected at all, but has become more and more intense. And with the power of the 4 beasts again, he intends to destroy the earth. Zappo's face was cold, and he crossed his arms. Ganon. Humph, the same trick again. Banner asked, how strong are the 4 beasts? Zelda said seriously, enough to dismember the earth. Everyone. Rogers raised his eyebrows. What? Navi also said, the power of the 4 beasts is terrible. Hyrule wanted to rely on the power of the 4 ancient beasts to defeat Ganon. It's a pity that in the end, Ganon used it instead. Darkle rumbled, we must recapture the beasts. Otherwise, when their power penetrates into the core of the earth will collapse. Banner held his head and sincerely felt regretful. I really shouldn't have said that. Natasha comforted, it's just a coincidence. Vision and Scarlet Witch also hurriedly said, yes, we were just joking. Rogers asked, is there any way to recapture them? Libba smiled, of course. It's time for our 4 heroes to show their skills. He looked at Link provocatively. If we hadn't greatly reduced Ganon's power, Link wouldn't have been so easy to defeat Ganon. His tone immediately became arrogant. Of course, Link did a great job himself. Rogers nodded. Okay, let's take action. Look. Falcon pointed at the beasts on the screen, who is standing on their heads. Everyone looked over, and Tony shouted, Jarvis, zoom in on that place and fill in the information with the simulation algorithm. Only a little figure in the picture was seen, and it was immediately enlarged and clear. Although the local photography pictures are not very clear and the information is seriously missing. But Jarvis, as the strongest artificial intelligence on Earth, can easily use a restoration algorithm to simulate a clearer picture. Mosaic can't resist Jarvis's powerful brain-filling ability. Princess Washang said with disgust, it is indeed the disaster Ganon. This is the combination of Ganon's will and the power of the mythical beast. Most of Link's injuries were caused by them. The shape of the disaster Ganon is extremely ferocious, composed of guardian textures, Ganon pollution, red evil flames, and deadly guardian blades. Although it is not the Ganon itself, Link is well aware of their dangers. The 4 heroes died at the hands of these guys. On the heads of the 4 mythical beasts, there are 4 tall disaster Ganons. Even though they can only see the detailed patterns simulated by blurred color blocks through the video, everyone still feels the oppression and danger from this evil beast. Nori hurriedly shouted, wait, in front of them? Jarvis, keep helping us simulate the image near Ganon more clearly. Okay, Elf. The picture shook twice, and the scene suddenly became clearer. There were shiny traces in front of the disaster Ganon before. After Java's image restoration, it has been completely clear what it is. The result made Link's pupils shrink, and his fist tightly grasped the sword. In front of the 4 disaster Ganons, a black iron cross was erected. Tied to the cross were the bodies of the 4 heroes. For some reason, the bodies of the 4 heroes remained intact after 100 years, as if they were sleeping. This made the 4 heroes lose consciousness for a while, and Tony and others looked at Mipha and his group in the state of souls in surprise. The voice of Goddess Hylia rang in Link's heart. He immediately knew that Goddess Hylia's mission had come. Although there were some unpleasant things with the goddess, it was not the time to care about these. But because of the previous things, the goddess voice was softer. She said softly, "Link, Ganon used the power of the 4 heroes to control the 4 beasts. You need to be responsible for defeating Disaster Ganon and regaining control of the 4 beasts." Link nodded silently. Even if Goddess Hylia didn't say it, he would do it. But then, the goddess words made his face change completely, because Calamity Ganon has preserved the bodies of the 4 heroes. So if you can defeat them, I can help you revive the 4 heroes. Boom, the 5th vibration. And this vibration sounded in Link's heart. Mipha. They are resurrected. Really? Can they really be resurrected from the dead? Link's heart began to beat. Goddess Hylia said, "With your help, the 4 heroes have condensed a lot of soul power. Their bodies are actually in the same situation you encountered before, in a state of suspended animation. I can revive them. Of course, the current Calamity Cannon is more dangerous than before. You must be careful. Brute force alone is not enough to defeat them. Try to observe their weaknesses. The weapons of the 4 heroes are all in the bodies of the 4 beasts. The light scale spear, the rock crushing sword, the 7 treasures sword, the 7 treasures shield, and the great eagle bow. These weapons carry the power of the heroes and can help you finally defeat Calamity Ganon. Of course, these weapons came to the Marvel world and were interfered by the laws of time and space, so you won't use them up easily." Link said in his heart. "Yes, Goddess." Goddess Hylia whispered, "Be careful." Then there was no sound. Heroes' weapons? The light scale spear is the most gorgeous weapon in the entire Hyrule continent, and Mipha's favorite. It has a strong stabbing ability. The rock crushing sword has the most violent power in Hyrule, and it is Darkle's magic weapon, slashing to be invincible. The 7 treasures sword and the 7 treasures shield are the treasures of Queen Urzapo, a set of combos, both offensive and defensive. The great eagle bow is the strongest bow in Hyrule and the best weapon of Liba. It is also the most comfortable and powerful bow Link has ever used. Link has experienced the power of these replicas of weapons and they are very smooth. He knows how powerful these weapons are, and with these magical weapons, his strength will be further exerted. He is a master of weapons. Not only swords, but also other guns, knives and other combat skills are also very powerful. This will greatly stimulate his combat ability. Welcome to Vote and subscribe to support genuine works. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 442, The 4 Divine Beasts Strike Back. Thundergod returns. Link had been through many ups and downs before. But this time, his heart was still pounding, and he was so excited that he could hardly speak. It was not easy for him to speak. He looked back at the 4 heroes in a daze. Mipha saw Link looking at her with a slightly shocked look. The Zora princess smiled softly in her tender voice. "What's wrong?" Link's expression is so strange, as if he had eaten poisonous fish. Tony complained to Zelda slightly. "Does this fishman princess also eat fish?" Zelda nodded. "It's different. Fishmen are people, not fish. On the contrary, they love to eat fish." Link looked at the 4 heroes and said seriously, "You have a chance to be resurrected." Mipha gently covered her mouth. Urzapo's face was moved, and Liba opened his mouth in shock, then forced himself to calm down and said lightly, "Link, are you confused after sleeping?" Darkle scratched his head. "Brother Link, I know you won't lie. Can we really be resurrected?" Link bit his lip and pointed to his temple. "Goddess Hylia said in my mind, your body is well preserved. As long as you defeat the 4 sacred beasts, you can be resurrected with the power of the 4 sacred beasts. Although Link wandered around the Hyrule continent and had no fixed place to live. But in Hanault village, he bought a property. There were some valuable weapons that were about to be used up. And a photo that he cherished very much. This was a group photo of him, Zelda, Mipha, Libba, Zappo, and Arkle. After the group photo was taken, within less than a day, all 4 heroes died. Link always felt sad for their deaths. Until now, when he saw the 4 heroes who had become souls and continued to contribute their strength to help him defeat the powerful enemy, Link could feel that there was a trace of sadness in their strength. Zappo relaxed her arms, took a deep breath, and smiled. If it really works, that would be great. I want to see my daughter. Darkle laughed. Great. Although the soul is in good condition, I won't be hungry or tired. But it's really uncomfortable not to be able to stand firmly on the ground, and not be able to roll on the ground. Libel lowered his head and said nothing. It may not succeed yet. Don't have too much hope. Don't put pressure on Link. Mipha held Link's hand and kept asking, really? I can live again? Well, sobbing, I want to see what my father looks like now. He's probably very old. My brother. Link didn't say anything. Even at this time, the 4 heroes were trying their best to restrain themselves. Just as Libel couldn't help but say, don't put pressure on Link. They are still thinking about Link. All the Avengers know the experiences of these 4 heroes. Tony twisted his neck. It seems that our mission has a new meaning. Protect the world, help these 4 heroes from another world to revive, and defeat Ganon. 1 battle, 3 gains. As a former arms dealer, I like this kind of lucrative business. Rogers continued to watch the news on the screen. He only heard the news report. This giant stone elephant is heading towards the US mainland. Half of the city of Miami has been submerged by the waves. Jarvis used the information he obtained to quickly analyze it. Sir, if the power of the 4 beasts is not contained, the Earth will be almost extinct within a week. It is comparable to the ancient Permian mass extinction. Rogers held the shield tightly. Avengers, prepare for battle. Zelda suddenly glowed, and then the other 3 Zelda princesses also glowed. She closed her eyes tightly and felt the roar of the 4 beasts. Navi asked, did you feel anything? Zelda opened her eyes immediately, her face pale. I saw it. Run. Link, be careful. Quicksilver looked at the screen and saw red light condensing from the heads of the 4 beasts, shooting out instantly. He teleported and came outside the house and saw a terrifying red beam of light bombarding from the 4 directions of southeast, northwest, and northeast, pouring towards the Avengers base. Quicksilver rushed back to the base again and shouted, no. Before we planned to attack the beasts attacked us first. Link gritted his teeth, smashed the ceiling with his head, and rushed out of the Avengers base. He summoned the Hylia shield, intending to withstand the beam attacks of the 4 beasts. But he looked left and right, and the beams were completely synchronized, with no difference in front and back. Even if Link had the speed of Quicksilver's eyes, he could not resist the 4 beasts' beam attacks at the same time. Zelda said in a deep voice, this is revenge. That's right. Ganon, who defeated Hyrule Continent, was completely eliminated by relying on the power of the 4 beasts, Link's fierce battle, and Zelda's final seal. Although Link was the only one fighting, it was the joint efforts of the 4 heroes, Zelda, and the 4 beasts that defeated him. Ganon was severely injured by the power of the 4 beasts, and he also planned to use this method to fight back against Link. The light on the 4 princesses became brighter and brighter, and in the end, their bodies even fell into nothingness. Swish, the light of the 4 Zeldas condensed to form a Zelda princess. She immediately flew up and came to the sky. A hexagonal wall of light was laid in front of her, covering the Avengers. But Zelda's heart was also beating. Can the power of the 4 Zeldas block even a beam attack from the beasts? Quicksilver hurriedly said, I'll take you away from this place first. You hold hands. Tony shook his head. No, we can't run far at all. He gritted his teeth. Jarvis, activate the final defense system of the Avengers base. Want to blow this place up? No way. Boom. With a sound, the entire eastern United States, except for special places such as hospitals, had a power outage. A large amount of electricity gathered inside the Avengers base, and the Avengers began to tremble slightly under their feet. Tony's face was gloomy. This is all the electricity of half of the United States. Cannon, don't underestimate the Earthlings. Outside the Avengers base, several pillars suddenly broke out of the ground, and electric sparks flew everywhere. Then, Zelda's flying bird was ejected from the center of the base, forming a shield in the air. A huge amount of electricity formed a defense field above the Avengers. Tony's face was indignant. Come on. Even if it's a gamma ray burst, I will block it for you. Hank exclaimed. Such a powerful energy shield. Can it really release a gamma ray burst? Jarvis ruthlessly exposed Tony. If it is Princess Zelda's gamma ray burst, it can. Bang. A lightning bolt suddenly struck from the sky. Then a deep male voice roared. Do you need electricity? Welcome to Vote and subscribe to support genuine works. Chapter 443. Boom. The rainbow bridge cut through the sky and knocked a big hole in the floor of the Avengers base. The strong man inside stood up. It was Thor, the god of thunder. Thor looked at the sky. Heimdall said that he saw something unusual. So he hurriedly summoned me here. Tony said simply, this is the energy defense field arranged by the electricity of most of the United States. But I'm not sure if it can block the beam attack of 4 beasts. Jarvis added, I can't calculate the energy of the beam attack of the beasts. It is beyond my observation level. Thor whispered, electricity? He raised the hammer high. Leave it to me. Electric sparks flew on Thor's hammer, and the sky was suddenly covered with dark clouds. Thor roared, for the glory of the North God. In the name of my father, the wind and clouds in the sky, the thunder and lightning and the wind and clouds. Obey my command. A large amount of lightning was injected into the energy defense field of the base like a meteor shower. Jarvis reported, Sir, the effect of the defense shield has been doubled. Thor looked at the 4 red beams approaching quickly. His face moved. No, it's not enough. Thor raised the hammer again. Loki's face changed suddenly. Isn't this your full strength? Banner couldn't believe it. Can you still attract stronger lightning? Looking at the expectant eyes of the crowd, Thor shyly shook his head. No. Everyone. Then what are you going to do? Thor shouted to the sky, for the glory of the North God. Father, come and help. Everyone almost fell to the ground. Thor said innocently, this is something that can't be helped. If you can't solve it, ask your parents. Isn't this a normal reaction? Loki's mouth twitched. You didn't react like this at the beginning. I saw a rainbow bridge descending again. I saw a sturdy old man riding a military horse, wearing ancient armor, holding Gungnir, appeared in the Avengers base. Vision saluted hurriedly. Oh my god. I saw a god. Loki silently complained. Aren't you familiar with me, a god? Odin stared at Loki. Loki, how long do you want to hide on Earth? Loki turned his back. HMPH. I'm ignoring you. Odin. He scratched his head. Could this kid have been beaten stupid by Link? But Odin's attention was soon attracted by the 4 rays of light that pierced quickly from the sky. Odin whispered, I underestimated Ganon's power. He stretched out his hand, and Thor's hammer immediately fell into Odin's palm. Thor sighed, I hate this feeling. Odin shouted, I, Odin, the Lord of the 9 realms, the thunder power of the earth, follow me to smash the evil. Boom boom boom. The ground began to shake violently, and the sky seemed to be shaking too. The sky was bright. Tony's defensive energy field instantly turned white. Odin squinted at Tony. Did you make this thing? Tony hurriedly said, Stark's product must be a fine product. Odin said, good boy. Asgard's defense system also needs to be updated. Let's not talk about this for now. I saw 4 red beams hitting the energy defense field. The white light shield and the red beams collided with each other like the strongest shield and the strongest spear. Things outside the Avengers base. Trees turned into powder in an instant. Rocks broke. The surface exploded. Everything was dissolving. Odin's hand holding up Thor's hammer began to tremble. He said dryly, it seems that I'm really a little old. He suddenly shouted, ah. The light shield shone brightly, and the white light instantly crushed the 3 beams of light. Odin's robe fluttered, and his beard blew in the wind. Everyone at the scene now understood what the style of the Lord of the 9 realms is. Hurry up and get out of the way. There is still a beam that has not been defeated. I can only hold on for a while, and I still can't save this place. Odin ordered. He felt the blood boiling in his body. His strength was not as good as before. He could only do this much. Link looked up at the sky for a long time and shouted at this moment, disband the defense field. Leave the last beam to me. Odin looked up and shouted, Link, don't be so stubborn. There are still many lives here. Roger said, we believe in Link. Tony immediately disbanded the energy defense field. The beam shot in immediately, and Link flapped his wings and rushed up. Shield counter. Backhand swinging the crystal Hylia shield. Boom. This is my counterattack. I saw a beam as thick as a house, which bounced back from the swing of the crystal shield. It hit the source of the beam, the head of the water beast Valruta. Valmedus shook violently. Link gasped. Due to the dark clouds gathered by Thor Odin, it began to rain heavily in the sky. On the trajectory of the four beams dissipating, a large amount of proof of order poured into Link's body. Link's body glowed. Odin nodded at Link in appreciation. You are indeed a warrior, much better than my son. Thor and Loki felt a little hurt. Natasha suddenly wrinkled her nose. Is it seawater falling from the sky? Why is there a seafood scandal? Thor laughed. I just fought with many big octopuses. This is the smell of their body fluids. Everyone hurried away. Odin looked at Tony. Not bad. Has the wisdom of the Earthlings reached the current level? Tony Stark, I remember your name. You will become the new defense structure officer of Asgard. Tony expressed his gratitude. I'm honored by your appreciation. But he complained in his heart. Why did I listen to your unilateral orders? From what you said, you sent me to work, but didn't pay me. They didn't relax for a while. Jarvis immediately said, Sir, the four beasts are condensing light again. Come again. Tony was furious. How is the defense system? Jarvis, completely damaged. The core components were completely burned out under high load. The wills of the four Zeldas immediately became unified. Zelda looked at Link and whispered, the four of us will seal the attacks of the four beasts separately. Come on and win. Then the four princesses turned into a white beam of light and instantly stabbed in four different directions. On the heads of the four beasts, a radiant totem like flowers and stars appeared. The heads of the four huge beasts were sealed by Ganon. Disaster Ganon looked at the slightly tired Zelda Phantom and said in the ancient Hylian language, your revenge is in vain. If Link cannot defeat it in time, you will be trapped in the beast forever as a residual soul. Zelda looked at Disaster Ganon firmly. This is something Link should consider. I just need to wait for his victory, just like in the past. Welcome to Vote and subscribe to support genuine works. Chapter 444. The princesses divided into 5 parts. Link landed, and he was in a bad mood. As the 4 Zelda princesses played a bigger and bigger role, they were needed more and more. Their safety was less guaranteed. This was definitely a torment for Link. Odin stepped forward and looked at Link. Why are you so gloomy? If you don't know how to feel happy and joyful for every victory, how can you maintain the motivation to win? The little girls did a good job. They blocked the attacks of the 4 beasts and paved the way for you. The rest requires you men to fight for your dignity. Vision and Scarlet Witch said, and us girls. Odin nodded and looked at Scarlet Witch and Vision. Not bad, not bad. The earth really surprised me. The mind gem has become a carrier of life. Vision waved his hands obediently. Hi. Then Odin's gaze shifted to Scarlet Witch. Your future is full of possibilities. You remind me of my daughter. Thor hurriedly said, daughter? How come I, as a son, don't know? Loki interrupted. The name of the daughter in my father's mouth is Thor. Thor grinned and glared at his little brother. You have been on Earth for so long, and you don't even know to change your sticky hairstyle. What do you think? Do you mind if I use lightning to make you look like Michael Jackson's instant noodle head? Link took out the Master Sword, and Faye appeared behind him, her body humming and flickering, and the blade was also humming and trembling. Odin looked at Link as he came over. Are you sure you can defeat the 4 beasts? Do you want my help? Link shook his head. Odin smiled. That's right. Use courage and anger as your best weapons. Fight heartily, fight bloody battles, and then drink the wine of victory. You are not an Asgardian, but every creature in the universe should have the qualities of an Asgardian warrior. He handed the hammer to Thor, then waved his cloak, and after thunder, enter the rainbow bridge and return to Asgard. Vision looked at the mark on the ground with admiration, and then said to Thor, your father is so handsome. Thor smiled and snorted. Don't even look at whose father it is. A tiger son will have a dog father. And Odin came in a hurry, turned the tide, and left in a hurry. At this moment, he has returned to the magnificent palace of Asgard. Ding. Gungnir fell to the ground, making an empty sound. Odin knelt on one knee with rapid breathing, and Queen Frigga hurriedly helped Odin up. Odin's face quickly turned pale, and he said with great effort, "Is my cultivation, the warrior's road, coming to an end?" Frigga shook her head with a slightly sad face, and said with a smile, "No, the warrior is just tired. Everyone will be tired." In Thor's eyes, his father is an upright king of Asgard, and he trusts Odin. It is for this reason that Odin's other son, Loki, can discover things that Thor cannot discover. Loki thought to himself, "Huh, Thor accidentally pitied my father. I'm afraid my father's end is near." He wanted to gloat silently in his heart, but for some reason, he was sure that he hated Odin and Frigga. But when he learned that Odin's health was not good, deep in his heart, Loki began to feel uneasy. Midona suddenly looked out the window, and she seemed to see a soft light slowly descending from the sky, and there seemed to be a slender and soft figure in the light. So he couldn't help but open his eyes wide. "She is." Then a smile appeared on his face. Rogers looked at Link, who was full of fighting spirit, and said, "We are ready to fight together. Fighting one mythical beast at a time will take too much time. The people on the earth and Zelda can't hold on for too long." Tony said, "I will lead a group of people, you will lead a group of people, and Thor will lead a group of people. We will deal with the affairs of the 4 mythical beasts separately." Banner said, "So, we can leave one free, so let's give it to Banner." Originally wanted to recommend himself. As a result, Tony smiled and said, "Of course, leave it to Link. I think he wants to fight the 4 beasts alone now." Banner was a little embarrassed, then he stretched out his hand and patted Link's shoulder to make amends. "Be careful on the road." As a result, Link asked Navi to say, "This arrangement is unreasonable. It is better not to disperse the personnel." Link means to let the Avengers, except him, be divided into 2 groups, each dealing with the 2 beasts. Rogers frowned. "No. We all trust your ability, but we can't let you deal with 2 beasts in a row." Midona smiled and said, "Of course not." She transformed into a charming adult. Holding the ether particles in her hand, she said confidently, "Leave the big lizard to me." The eyes of Tony and others were obviously distrustful. Midona flicked her beautifully manicured nails. "Not just me, there's also Yair and Nilan." Peepapa immediately jumped up excitedly. Me. Yair picked up Peepapa, looked at everyone and smiled. "Yes, there's also Peepapa." Natasha smiled strangely. "What is this called?" "Link's pet team." At this time, Link suddenly heard a soft and ethereal singing voice coming from outside the house. The singing sounded like the secret garden in the fairy tale, full of wonderful feelings that people yearned for. His heart skipped a beat and he hurried out of the house. "What's wrong with Link?" Everyone saw Link hurriedly running out of the house, as if Takia had arrived. Everyone followed him out, and then saw a very beautiful scene. A beautiful blonde girl with a faint white glow on her body, wearing a pink dress, falling lightly like a feather, singing a beautiful exotic ballad. Just like when people see Link, the first reaction will be the word brave. As soon as they see this girl, everyone couldn't help but think, only a girl like this deserves to be called a princess, right? Link slowly reached out his hand, hugged the blonde princess's slender waist, and let the girl's feet gently fall to the ground. The blonde princess stroked Link's soft hair, and said with a smile, "We finally meet, my brave, my Link." Midona turned her head, and saw that the other Avengers all showed a smile like an old father. Thor looked left and right, touched his chin and smiled. It goes without saying that this must be another Zelda from a parallel world. Tony shrugged. "That's right. I have no doubt that there are at least 10,000 Zeldas in this world." Natasha gathered her hair outside. 5 Zeldas. You can play basketball. As a result, at this time, Link said something that made everyone stunned. Link scratched his head in confusion, and then smiled awkwardly. Who are you? Everyone. Welcome to Vote and subscribe to support genuine works. Chapter 445. Sneaky Tactics. Zelda overtakes on a curve. Not to mention the crowd watching, they were all stunned. Even the new Zelda in Link's arms smiled with a confused look on her face. "You don't know me." Navi helped Link explain. "Well, princess, Link knows you are Zelda, but I don't know which Zelda you are. There are many Zeldas in the parallel world. The first 4 Zeldas that appeared were all princesses that Link was familiar with, and this one This Zelda has a very cute face and facial features, and a very strong girlish feeling. Her soft golden long hair is more delicate than Link's hair. She is wearing a light pink princess dress, and her waist is slender, as if it can be easily broken, which makes Link very careful. This look is the most classic princess image in the Zelda series. Many game versions of Zelda models have this posture, so Link doesn't know which version this Zelda is. After hearing this, Zelda smiled slightly, just like mountain flowers blowing in the wind. It made Link's heart move. She has a different style, different from the temperament of the wild princess, the beauty of the peerless princess, the coldness and tranquility of the twilight princess, and the transcendence and enthusiasm of the sky princess. Her temperament is more extroverted, generous, confident, and energetic, and yet she still has the demeanor of a princess. Looking at her, you will feel incredibly better. As for me, I'm the original Zelda. Then call you the first generation Princess Zelda. Navi said decisively. That's it. Zelda, the first generation princess, smiled in confusion. After listening to it, Link complained in his heart, what is this called? Ultraman naming method? Then he looked at the first generation princess in confusion. Among all the princesses, the first generation princess appeared the most abruptly. He didn't know what opportunity brought the first generation princess to him. As if she could see Link's confusion, the first generation princess tilted her head and smiled. The other four of me are all trying to guard the four sacred beasts. And now Link will be very lonely, so I came to accompany you. This sentence made Link blush a little. In fact, Link really has a hidden attribute. When he fights, if there is a Zelda watching him, his combat power can be increased by 20%. This hidden attribute comes from the hero's responsibility to protect the princess, the courage brought by the existence of a protective person behind him, and the promise a boy makes to a girl. At this time, a huge wave hit. The first generation princess stretched out her hand, and a triangular golden light shone from her hand, which hummed and magnified holy, and was printed on the rushing huge wave like a shield. Boom. The huge wave was shattered in an instant. The strong water vapor formed a beautiful rainbow under the illumination of the golden light. It was blown away by the strong wind. The first generation princess looked at the shattered huge waves, and her dress and long hair swayed backwards. She whispered, "This is a tsunami caused by Balruta. If it continues to get out of control, all the coastal cities on this planet will be destroyed by the tsunami." She turned her head and looked at Midona. "I still have some fighting skills. I will team up with Midona." The first princess saw Link frowning and knew that he was worried about her. So she smiled softly. "I'm a princess. You must obey my orders." She tiptoed slightly, leaned forward gently, pecked Link's cheek lightly with her tender pink mouth, and then took a step back, with her two slender and tender hands entangled behind her waist. The first princess face was flushed, and she was very cute. "My brave, let's all work hard." Ye felt a strong sense of crisis, and at this moment he was rubbing his claws and teeth with a ferocious look on his face, ready to give the first princess a hard time. Quicksilver couldn't help but analyze the situation. There are already 5 Zeldas on the field, and the battle for Link has entered a white-hot stage. Come on, place your bets. I bet on this new princess. She is too proactive, and the other 4 shy girls can't compare. Banner expressed his objection. "I bet on the first Zelda. She and Link are from the same world, and their relationship is not comparable to that of other princesses." After a lot of analysis, Vision said, "I bet on the second Zelda, unparalleled princess." Everyone looked at her. "Tell me the reason." Vision said seriously, "Because the second Zelda, unparalleled princess, is the most handsome and beautiful." Scarlet Witch said weakly, "In fact, I think the fourth Zelda, Twilight Princess, is more beautiful." A subtle disagreement suddenly arose between the besties. The 2 girls began to stare at each other. Thor stroked his beard and smiled confidently. "I bet on the third Zelda." Natasha asked, "Why?" Thor raised his hammer and shouted, "For the glory of the Northern God. I won't choose the same as you." Everyone. Tony smiled contemptuously. "You guys have 2 naive ideas. Do you need to choose?" "Of course I want them all." Banner was puzzled. "I think Link is a very innocent boy. He shouldn't be like this." Tony put his hands on his hips. "They are all Zelda, and they only have one life. Link is very innocent, and he really only likes one Zelda." But I feel that Link's relationship with Mithra is not ordinary. Rogers looked at the increasingly complicated sky and said with a stern face, "Don't discuss some frivolous issues. The Earth is in danger." At this time, the first generation princess came over holding Link's hand. Based on the memories of the other 4 princesses, the first princess said softly, "You all possess a variety of powerful abilities, as well as the courage in your heart, that is stronger than physical force. With these, we have the ability to protect what we want to protect." Tony tilted his head and said to Rogers, "Look at how others speak. You only know one sentence. Avengers, assemble." Like a fool in a sitcom, the first princess said calmly, "Thor, Banner, Falcon, and Natasha are a group responsible for the Thunder Beasts. Captain, Stark, Wanda, and Vision are responsible for dealing with the Fire Beasts. Link has the power of thunder and is responsible for fighting the Water Beasts. Midona and I are responsible for the Wind Beasts. The 4 beasts are very threatening. Our primary goal is not to defeat Calamity Ganon. We don't have the Master Sword, and we don't need to fight Calamity Ganon. You just need to take back the bodies of the 4 heroes from the 4 beasts. Without the power of the 4 heroes, the beasts will fall into a deep sleep underground. We will defeat them one by one then." She looked at Link. Link's task is the most difficult. He must be responsible for killing the Water Beast, Disaster Ganon. Only the Master Sword can do this, and only he can do it. Only by killing a Disaster Ganon can the connection between the 4 beasts be destroyed, freeing the other Zeldas who temporarily seal the beasts' beam attacks. Then the 5 of us will work together to sever the connection between Ganon's will and the 4 beasts. Only in this way can we save the Earth as quickly and effectively as possible. Next, in the name of Goddess Hylia, everyone, take action. Welcome to Vote and subscribe to support genuine works. Chapter 446, Victory in a Flash. Although Princess Zelda often appears as a weak image waiting to be rescued by Link, but as a naturally noble princess, she is born with a convincing grace and leadership. After the first generation princess finished speaking, her face suddenly turned red, showing a little embarrassment, touching her hair and smiling shyly. "Sorry, I made too many suggestions." Banner hurriedly said, "It doesn't matter. Anyway, we voted for the leader of the Avengers in the Shield base." Scarlet Witch opened her eyes wide with curiosity and asked, "Who got the most votes in the end?" Banner smiled, "Because Natasha and Barton both chose the captain. Tony felt that he had no chance to sing, so he pulled me to vote for Link. And Link voted for Zelda." Tony hugged his arms and hummed as he looked at Rogers. Rogers pursed his lips at Tony's provocation and muttered in his heart, "What is this guy fussing about all day?" Vision said obediently, "Yes." So the Avengers acted quickly. As for the others who came to explain, Thor dragged Loki away. Rogers took Venom and Ant-Man away. Only Hank and Hope, father and daughter, were left in the base. Although they only appeared for a while, the 4 beasts have already turned the world upside down. The whole world is in chaos. Tony was annoyed by the calls from the World Security Committee. Although after the incident with Joseph, the World Security Committee became very obedient and no longer wanted to trouble the Avengers. Every time they asked the Avengers, they were very careful. However, if there was something that the World Security Committee could not solve, they would call to harass Tony and others, hoping to ask them to help solve it. For example, asking the Avengers to help blow up abandoned dams and adjust bilateral relations between the 2 countries. This time too, a kind-looking old man from the World Security Committee made a video call to Tony, crying, "Avengers, come and help the Earth. We can't hold on any longer." Tony said helplessly, "Didn't I tell you that you should just evacuate the people? We will take care of it. You keep making video calls like this. Do you want to watch us being harassed while we fight monsters? Leave it to us. Leave it to us." He hurriedly blocked the external call system with Jarvis and only connected with other Avengers. At this moment, Link was alone and had quickly flown over Val Ruta and saw the Calamity Ganon, who exuded a strange aura, waiting for him. The one responsible for sealing Val Ruta's beam attack here was Zelda. Zelda's weak soul looked at him and encouraged him, "Come on." Link nodded, summoned the Hylian shield in the Master Sword from the weapon space and walked over. Water Disaster Ganon raised his weapon high, and his voice came out mechanically. Useless courage, before darkness falls on everything. You are still arrogant without knowing it. Nori couldn't help but complain. Why are you talking so much? Do you expect Link to argue with you? Crack. Link was in high spirits, and his sword stabbed like lightning. The sword light sprayed like a poisonous snake's tongue. His footsteps were fast and the frequency was uncertain. He ran out of the lightning light line and met with a sword. Bang! It collided with the guardian sword of Disaster Ganon, and sparks flew. Disaster Ganon let out a threatening roar, and he felt Link's powerful strength at this time. Link was improving almost every moment. The dark red cursed power of Ganon and Link's light power clashed in the void. Nori immediately locked Disaster Ganon, and a white triangle of light appeared on his chest. The spear in Disaster Ganon's other hand suddenly stabbed out. Link immediately lowered his body and waved his shield. Boom. To block it, Link immediately took a step back, and Navi screamed ah, and Link's body suddenly disappeared. Navi's skill, sneaking. Disaster Ganon quickly looked for Link's momentum, and Link's inner energy was extremely strong. Even if he was invisible, he could not escape his pursuit. And his hands did not stop, and the Guardian Greatsword slashed down fiercely. Boom. Time stop skill. Link immediately used the time stop skill while invisible. Locked on Disaster Ganon. In the invisible state, Navi locked on again. Disaster Ganon had no room to dodge, and was easily locked. Link quickly switched the weapon in his hand to the Dragon Soul Greatsword, showing his body, and slashed hard from bottom to top. Bang. The first attack. Then Link's feet began to spin, and he took off like a spinning top. The Dragon Soul Greatsword released a scorching breath, and cut the body of Disaster Ganon fiercely, and at high speed like a chainsaw. Bang! The time stop chain collapsed, and Link's impact was all poured into Calamity Ganon's body. Link is now a completely different person, with much greater strength. Calamity Ganon slammed into the stone wall behind him. Water Calamity Ganon roared angrily. Link's feet shook, and he saw Water Calamity Ganon controlling the water beast, Valruta. The giant elephant's mechanical stone trunk was raised high, spraying a column of water at Link. Link immediately turned around and pushed his shield. The column of water hit Link's arm crazily, and Water Calamity Ganon behind him also stood up at this time. Navi hurriedly said, Link, Calamity Ganon is attacking. Calamity Ganon threw the Guardian Spear in one hand. Then he swung the Greatsword with both hands. Zelda also clenched her two small hands nervously, and looked at Link nervously in a weak soul state. Navi also suddenly became quiet. Although she liked to chirp, she was very sensible, and would not chirp when Link was in such a critical state. The only one who was calm was Link. He raised his shield to resist the high-intensity water column. Seeing Disaster Ganon rushing over quickly, he turned around suddenly, took off his shield, and swung his spear away. Bang! The water column hit Disaster Ganon's body. Link stabbed one arm into the water column, and snapped his fingers silently. Zaya, a large amount of electric current carried the impact to Disaster Ganon's body. Because this Disaster Ganon borrowed the power of water, it was the weakest when it encountered electric shock. The water column quickly decreased. Disaster Ganon was seriously injured and tried to stand up, and saw Link walking towards him calmly. Up to now, Link has not used his full strength. The thunder bow appeared in his hand. Link bent his bow and put an arrow on it. Disaster Ganon roared wildly, but his shrill voice exposed his fear. Stab! The lightning dragon roared out. Link let go of his fingers, and the surging lightning illuminated the sky. Calamity Ganon was locked by Navi, and there was no room for him to dodge. He raised the Guardian Greatsword and chopped it down with all his strength. Bang! The lightning pierced through his body. Calamity Ganon fell in front of Link with a daze and turned into a pool of ashes. The subjugation of Water Calamity Ganon was successful. It was vulnerable. Welcome to vote and subscribe to support genuine works. Thank you to Morris for your 100 starting coins. Thank you to Runa Kosaka for your 100 starting coins. Chapter 447. Mipha is resurrected. Zelda looked at Link in surprise. She was a little slow to react. She thought she would encounter a fierce battle, and only when both sides were close to their limits could the winner be truly determined. In the end, the expected tragic battle did not happen. The battle process was unusually fast, and Link easily defeated the Calamity Ganon. Even from his indifferent expression, it was known that Link did not use his full strength. Link turned his head and smiled at Zelda. Zelda's heart was thumping. I didn't expect Link to have grown to this point. In the Ash Ruins, created by the Calamity Ganon, a light red light was released and condensed above Link. Boom. There was a slight sound. A shiny, exquisitely shaped trident spear appeared above Link and slowly landed in Link's hand. Light scale spear. Open your palm and hold it. Link could feel a gentle power surging in the light scale spear. He simply swung it twice, and the spear whirred in the air, extremely light. Link was used to holding heavy weapons, so he was a little uncomfortable with such a light weapon. He thrust forward suddenly, and a moist light red spear light gushed out, shooting to a long distance, like a meteor piercing the night sky. Link used to like to use this gun, so he broke it very quickly. He was afraid that Mipha would feel bad, so he never told her. This light scale spear has changed a lot after crossing into the Marvel world. The power has increased several times, reaching the level of the Dragon Soul Greatsword. This has brought Link a rare long-handled weapon. With the Dragon Soul Greatsword, Link can also use the long spear slash that he has not used for a long time. This will undoubtedly greatly expand the depth of his own combat methods. Link came to the cross with the light scale spear and swept it fiercely. His own power also became soft but sharp under the filter of the light scale spear. The black cross quickly disintegrated under the impact of Link's light power. Mipha's body fell down. Link caught it carefully. Mipha, who was originally dormant in Link's body, was suddenly pulled out by a gentle and bright power. She tilted her head and said cutely, "Hey, how did I get out?" She lowered her head and saw that a golden sacred triangle had appeared on her chest. Then she turned around and saw her body held by Link. She said softly, "Ah," and smiled at Link. She said softly, "Did you take back my body?" Link nodded excitedly. The voice of the goddess Hylia came from the air. The spirit of the hero returned to the original. Then the sacred triangle on Mipha's chest began to transmit the ability of absorption. Then the delicate body in Link's arms suddenly decomposed into a large area of light. Out of Link's embrace, Mipha's heroic soul swirled around like the Milky Way. Mipha gently opened her mouth. The power of the goddess Hylia was nourishing her long dormant body, constantly awakening the vitality of this body, and reconstructing and reorganizing it. The light point slowly fell into Mipha's body. Soon, a beating heart began to condense out of the body. With the blessing of the goddess Hylia, Mipha's body quickly completed the reorganization. Link couldn't help but hold his breath. He waited patiently. Swish, the light surrounding Mipha suddenly dimmed and covered the heroic soul. A vivid red body slowly fell to the ground. Mipha moved her fingers and could move. She tried hard to take 2 steps forward. It was the first time she walked in more than 100 years. She felt her center of gravity was unstable and fell forward. Link immediately supported her. Feeling the heat from Link's body, Mipha's body suddenly became tense. Mipha was sure that, if she were a human, she would be covered with goosebumps now. She was so excited that she couldn't hold it in her heart. She said with a chuckle, "Link, am I really resurrected?" She lay in Link's arms and sobbed softly. Zelda smiled as she watched the two people hugging each other. Navi happily hummed a ballad that made her feel very happy. Just as Link easily won and resurrected Mipha with the help of the goddess Hylia, the other 3 parties were still in the battle. Thor Odin swung his hammer to fight against Calamity Ganon, while Hulk roared and lay on Calamity Ganon's back and bit it. After Thor tried hard to throw the hammer and hit Calamity Ganon's chin, he hurriedly turned back and shouted, "Hurry up." Their group was responsible for dealing with the strongest thunder beast, so Thor and Hulk had a very hard time fighting. Falcon and Natasha took their pistols and shot at the black cross, and the debris splashed. Natasha shouted, "It's done." As Appo's body fell from the broken cross, Natasha held it steadily. Thor rushed over, and Calamity Ganon punched him hard. Thor's eyes went dark, and he flew backwards. But he still did what he should do, pulling Hulk off Calamity Ganon. He shouted, "Loki." Loki quickly ran out from the corner. He had turned into Link, holding the pistol in his hand, and throwing it at Calamity Ganon, hitting the back of Calamity Ganon's head. "Hey, I'm the special young hero. If you have the guts, come and beat me up." Calamity Ganon roared and ran towards Loki. Loki felt a strong fighting spirit and resentment. It was much stronger than when he fought Thor. Seeing this, Loki's mouth twitched. I feel like I can't survive more than 3 seconds in his hands. Help. At this moment, Natasha and others had already carried Zappo's body onto the fighter. Falcon immediately activated the magnetic system on Loki's body. Swish. Loki was pulled and quickly attached to the flying Quinjet. Calamity Ganon pounced on him, and Loki yelled, "Fly, fly." Bang. Calamity Ganon threw a sword at the engine of the fighter. Falcon's face turned pale. Damn it. We are going to crash. Calamity Ganon walked over with a grin. The Quinjet was damaged, and these people were just his tools for abuse. Banner said weakly, "It's over." Thor clenched his hammer and was ready to die in battle. "I can still fight." Calamity Ganon waited for the fighter to fall. But at this moment, a large spark circle appeared in the air. The fighter fell into the spark circle with a puff and disappeared. Calamity Ganon was stunned for a moment, then roared. Boom. The Quinjet fell on the roof of the magic temple. The king was drinking tea leisurely, and suddenly some dust fell from the ceiling and fell into the teacup. His fat face stretched out immediately. Strange's cloak fluttered, and he looked at Thor, Banner and others who walked down the plane thrillingly. The weather is nice today, but it's cloudy, and there's a tsunami. Welcome to Vote and subscribe to support genuine works. Chapter 448 The hero is resurrected. Drinking tea on a windy rooftop is not very interesting. But Strange is British. He looked at the Avengers who got off the damaged Quinjet calmly and said, "I think you need a cup of warm tea. You are awesome." What Strange didn't expect was that the Avengers rushed towards him with surprise. "Wait. What are you going to do? Stop. Are you going to repay kindness with hatred and cut me into pieces?" Thor and others who survived the disaster grabbed Strange's limbs in surprise, and Strange let go of the tea in the expensive cup that he had carefully brewed with super expensive tea leaves. Strange didn't have time to feel distressed. He looked at the Avengers with a dull face as they threw him into the air one by one. "Oh, hero. Oh, hero." Strange was embarrassed. "Put me down. It's so undignified. The neighbors are going to call the police." The only one who remained calm on the Avengers side was Natasha. She watched coldly as Banner, Thor, and Falcon tossed Strange around with indifference on their faces. After Strange reluctantly came down dizzy, Banner hugged Strange and kissed him fiercely. "We are so grateful to you. You are awesome." Strange said aggrievedly, "I would rather you didn't appreciate me." At this time, Loki, who was still attached to the Quinjet, spread his hands helplessly. "Everyone, who will cancel the damn magnetic device behind me first? I don't want to be hanging all the time." Strange pointed at Loki in confusion and asked the others, "Is this a peripheral product of your revenge? A living refrigerator magnet?" Loki clapped his hands together fiercely, and he shouted angrily, "I have made great contributions in this battle. I'm the Prince of Asgard. I have status. I'm not a clown you play with." "No," Natasha said coldly, "you said so much. Is it useful? You have been beaten up by Link." Loki was helpless. "Let's talk about something else. Do you think I will get hurt?" He frowned and smiled. "Tell me, which Avenger has not been bullied by Link?" Thor and Banner looked at each other hesitantly. Indeed. Strange was shocked. "I didn't expect Link to be so arrogant in the alliance." Natasha continued to add, "You have been beaten to tears by Link." Loki roared, "It's not nonsense. Bah. I have never been beaten to tears by Link." Natasha said, "I have photos." Loki pulled a long face. "So, you are not going to let me down?" "Natasha, don't force me. Be careful that I will transform into your appearance to seduce Link. You know the consequences." Natasha shrugged. "Okay, I'm scared." She helped Loki pull off the magnetic device. Natasha suddenly winked at Loki charmingly. "My relationship with Link is far more than that." Loki was stunned. A fierce collision of thoughts suddenly broke out in his mind. "What should I do? Big news. I think I will spread it and cause trouble. But it's too dangerous. Link will definitely kill me." He was suddenly entangled. Thor woke up from his shock and asked, "Steven, what's going on with Captain America and Stark?" Strange twisted his wrist, and the broken cups on the ground, along with the spilled tea, were restored to their original state in Strange's hands like a video played in reverse. "Not good." Thanks to the two girls from the Avengers for their great power, they can let Stark and Rogers breathe a little longer on the ground. Strange drew a circle of sparks. On the other side of the circle of sparks, Vision and Scarlet Witch were spinning in circles and entangled with Calamity Ganon. The Avengers hurriedly stepped into the circle of light. Tony lay dry on the ground, looking at the bruised Captain America beside him. The two leaders of the Avengers felt that they had grown old. Quicksilver flashed over and said in surprise, "I destroyed the cross, and Darkle was freed. But I don't have the strength to move him." At this time, Thor had already run in and carried Darkle, the hero of the Drum Tribe. Tony said weakly, "You're here? These kids are doing really well. I think the captain can retire. Anyway, his personality is so similar to Link's." Roger stared at Tony. "Of course I want to retire too. My most important purpose in the Avengers is to keep an eye on you." Natasha ran over and said, "You two should stop flirting. Do you think you two don't have enough books? Let's retreat." Rogers asked, "How is Link?" "He's alone." Strange said, "He's alone. He's the one you don't have to worry about the least. The fish lady has been resurrected and is getting together with Link." Link's battle against Calamity Ganon was the worst. He was killed in less than 30 seconds. "And the two of you, in less than 30 seconds. Rogers said sullenly, "Almost killed." Quicksilver also joined the battle, holding his sister in one hand and Vision in the other. He quickly led them to retreat. Everyone escaped from Strange's Spark Circle again. On the other side of the Spark Circle, on the water beast Valruta, when they walked in, they saw Mipha and Link hugging each other, while Zelda's soul was watching from the side far away, with a very complicated expression. This composition felt very familiar. Mipha saw a large group of people walking out of the air, so he quickly let go of Link. Link saw the two heroes they brought. The dragon roared in the sky, and the Nell dragon flew down. The spirited first generation princess and the little ones such as Madonna, Peppa, and Yaya returned. The first generation princess smiled and said, "Everyone, it seems that we have won." The Avenger put the hero's body on the ground. The sacred Triforce on Mipha's chest released a faint light again, buzzing. In the sky, the figure of the goddess Hylia was looming. Tap. Link's pupils shrank, because he seemed to have seen that the other crystal wing of the goddess Hylia was also broken. It turned into dots of light and poured into the bodies of the four heroes. Except for Mipha, who had been revived, the bodies of the other three heroes turned into bright white like magma, and then shattered into thousands of light points. Blue flames surged from Link's body. The souls of the three heroes flew towards the large piece of light. Swish, swish, swish. The sacred and vibrant power rippled over the water beast. Tony and Rogers looked at this scene back to back. Resurrection? There is actually such a moment in the world. Tony thought of his parents, and Rogers thought of Bucky and Carter. Quicksilver quickly took out his mobile phone and wanted to take a photo, but the picture illuminated by the mobile phone was blank. Boom. The figures of Darkle, Zappo, and Libra appeared in the light. The three heroes opened their eyes one after another. Welcome to vote and subscribe to support genuine works. Thank you for the support of Devouring King 300 starting coins. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 449, Great Increase in Strength. Libra took a deep breath of fresh air and tried to remain calm. Not bad. Haha. Darkle slapped Libra's face happily, causing the birdman to lose 2 feathers. You are so awkward. You should laugh when you are happy and cry when you are sad. Life is so simple. Libra's back was in pain, and he gasped and said, "I feel like crying now. But I just felt the pain. This is not bad." Zappo took a deep breath with excitement. Thor smiled and said loudly, "You and I are most familiar with each other. When Link discharges electricity, you will appear." Zappo snapped his fingers casually, and a terrible lightning struck the sea fiercely, overturning the waves. She smiled and said, "I know you too, little boy who lives on a star. You have a nice hairstyle." Zappo came to Link and said softly, "Thank you for your efforts. Our 4 lives were saved by you at your own risk." Tony tilted his head and smiled. You're welcome. Anyway, you have shown us a wonderful drama of resurrection from the dead. Our adventure has also paid off. Natasha said, it's not over yet. We should figure out how to seal the 4 beasts. Link nodded and looked at the 4 heroes. Mipha smiled and said, leave this kind of thing to us. Zappo blinked at Zelda. Little princess, did you miss me? Zelda smiled with curved eyebrows. It's great to see you resurrected again. Libel flew high into the sky, surrounded by the wind. Libba shouted in a clear voice, let's go. Darkle slammed his fists together fiercely. Okay. Mipha released a red light from his body. Zappo shot a bright yellow light towards the sky, while Darkle's was brown and Libba's was grey. 4 rays of light penetrated the sky. Then 3 rays of light refracted in 3 different directions. And Mipha's red light vertically poured into the body of the water beast. All over the world, the 4 beasts rumbled. The fire beast, the wind beast, and the thunder beast shook violently, making a long cry that resounded throughout the world. Above it, Calamity Ganon screamed wildly, holding the guardian weapon and slashing at the air. But it was no use. He could only watch himself sink into the body of the beast. Then the beast suddenly lost its voice, and all the red light runes on its body disappeared. They quieted down, as if it was just a harmless giant. Libba flew down gently, holding his 2 wings, and looking up arrogantly. It's effortless. Jarvis also reported, sir, the other 3 beasts have completely stopped moving. The disaster they caused has also stopped. Tony and Rogers relaxed, and lay on the ground after hearing this. Before, they were burdened by the destruction of the world, but now they are completely relaxed. Tony groaned. You said I paid money, worked hard, and even my own life. I might die on the battlefield one day. Who do you think will give me a reward? Peppa suddenly jumped over and hit Tony in the face. Tony struggled hurriedly. Who is attacking me? Peppa danced happily. Tony, I'm rewarding you. I'm giving you a good thing. Pop. Peppa handed Tony a golden semi-solid gelatinous object. Peppa said, this is the symbol of Croja. Tony frowned. Why does this thing stink? Roger's point of view was even more tricky. Peppa, where did you get it from? Peppa smiled and scratched his head without saying anything. Fangire and Madonna flew back to Link's left and right shoulders skillfully. Fangire smiled and rubbed Link's cheeks. It was really a long time since we last saw each other. Libba landed and looked at Link with a smile. Don't stand there and do nothing. It seems that something you need is falling from the sky. Hearing this, Link raised his head. Every time you overcome a difficult situation, you will get a reward for your courage and efforts. He is no longer surprised. I saw a few shining triangles falling from the sky. Link's eyes suddenly lit up. It's the mission triangle. This is the part of the sacred triangle that represents power. It brings Link the strongest increase in power. He hurriedly flew into the air to catch it, flying around in the air. He caught 4 mission certificates. Seeing that his sacred triangle was almost filled, Link was very curious about how powerful the completed sacred triangle would be. Even with only 4 proofs of mission, it greatly increased Link's strength. Then he saw 3 spots of light approaching rapidly in the sky. He thought they were the proofs of mission left by the other 3 beasts. He hurriedly chased after them, but as soon as he got closer, he found that they were not proofs of mission, but other Zelda. The Sky Princess rushed towards him, and in her soul state, she directly crashed through Link's body. The 2 people turned around in the air, and the Sky Princess asked with a smile, Link, have you seen the new me? Link smiled and nodded. The Sky Princess poked Link's face with her finger and smiled sweetly. That me, the first generation princess, is very powerful. As far as I know, she is a collection of the final Zelda and other worlds. In other words, she is the last Zelda. She put her hands on her hips and looked at Link in a very cute manner. It's good this way. Otherwise, there will always be a new me popping up, which always feels weird. What do you think of us 5 Zeldas? Link didn't know how to answer. The Sky Princess pressed her finger on Link's mouth, although it was useless in the spirit state. The Sky Princess said, it seems that this question is very difficult for you. I won't embarrass you. Let's go down. I don't know why, I feel very cold in the spirit state. The Sky Princess and Link then joined the other Zelda. Mipha looked left and right, a little flustered. Darkle whispered, no matter how quietly he spoke, it was still deafening. to Libba. With so many Zeldas, it must be very hard for Link. Libba snorted. How do I know what he thinks? I hope he doesn't die of joy. It must be said that the scene of the 5 Zeldas coming together is quite shocking. The first generation princess looked at the other princesses in the State of Souls and smiled charmingly. Thank you for your hard work. We have done a good job. From the back of her hand, the symbol of the sacred triangle emerged, and 4 powers were poured from her body into the bodies of the other 4 princesses. The 4 princesses recovered from the State of Souls and became living bodies. Then Link saw the 5 Zeldas turned around and looked at him with a smile, as if he was the center of the world. Welcome to vote and subscribe to support genuine works. Chapter 450 Nick's visit. There are some new members in the Avengers base. The 4 heroes also moved into the Sky King city together. Libba flew high in the sky, looked at the charming sunset, and took a deep breath. As a birdman of the Lead tribe, Libba's bones are hollow, and his body is lighter than other races. At this moment, he felt that his body was very heavy, as if he was flying with a backpack full of steel plates. Link was watching carefully at the side. Because they had been in the Soul State for too long, the athletic ability of the 4 heroes was greatly affected. They even had some difficulty walking. After all, after 100 years of Soul State, they had been in a light and weightless state, and suddenly they had a burden of the body, and they became very uncomfortable. Of course, the 4 heroes were very happy to see this discomfort. Just like pain, feeling pain means that you are still alive. This sense of burden is a so-called feeling of life. Libba enjoyed the difficult flight at this moment. Although he had crashed several times, Libba glared at Link. You don't need to stand by and watch me. Do you think my flying ability is worth worrying about? Please, you might as well worry about the moon falling. The chance of the moon falling is higher than me falling again. That chicken. Midona on Link's shoulder complained. Touch the big bump on your head before you say such nice things. We can't just watch you fall to death. Libba looked at Link in surprise. Something is wrong. The 4 of us have clearly left your body. Why can you still use my power and fly? Link shrugged. He himself was not very clear. Although the 4 heroes were resurrected, Link still retained Darkle's great strength and all-round shield, Zappo's thunder power, and Libba's flying ability. The only exception is Mipha's guardian power. The guardian power has always been controlled by Mipha, and Link cannot use it. So when Mipha revived, the power was also taken away. However, the impact of the guardian power on Link's body is still a lot of reservations. At least now Link's injury recovery speed is 3 times faster than usual. After practicing the 3rd wave of flight, Libel landed tiredly. At this time, Zappo was talking to Thor. Both of them can emit electric currents, and maybe their electric waves can match. The 5 princesses stayed with Mipha and took care of Epona. Epona stood there with an unhappy look on her face, and several princesses were washing her body. Peppa was lying on top of Darkle and talking to Darkle. Creatures like Yaha often like to hide under rocks and be discovered by others, perhaps because of this. Peppa likes Darkle very much. Tony took a break from his busy schedule and ran out of the laboratory to pour himself a cup of coffee. Looking at the scene in front of him, he couldn't help but say, what a peaceful day. It would be nice if life could be like this in the future, although it's a little less exciting. Banner said with a little concern, you'd better not raise the flag like this. I said this before, and then there were earthquakes everywhere, and 4 beasts appeared. People were still eating there, but the earth was in crisis again. Don't you think it's uncomfortable? Tony glared at Banner. You are too superstitious. Although there is a goddess Helia in this world, you can't just believe in such unfounded things. Rogers and Natasha were training the new Avengers. Loki was already shouting that he would transform and escape to find his freedom. And Vision helped Tony and Hank to assist in the manufacture of quantum machines. So the ones participating in the training were Falcon, Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, and Venom. Scott came up and looked at them with a smile. Is this how you Avengers train? It's so funny. Quicksilver fell to the ground in a sullen manner and weakly stretched out a trembling hand to Scott. Please, save me, give me a piece of chocolate. And Scarlet Witch was not going to do it either. She protested. I'm already very strong. I don't need to train anymore. That, Captain, you saw it too. Vision and I helped a lot after you and Boss Stark fell. That Roger stared at her calmly. Scarlet Witch's momentum was getting weaker and weaker. Natasha said with a slightly tired look, "It's not okay to continue training in such an inefficient way. The kids are very resistant. Even the good boy Vision finds excuses to skip classes." Vision walked out of the laboratory leisurely, and when he heard the voice, he hurriedly explained with a smile, "No, I'm helping Boss Stark and Dr. Banner." Natasha said, "There are cameras everywhere in the Avengers base. I saw you in the laboratory, just eating snacks and watching variety shows." Wanda glared at Vision angrily. "What? You actually betrayed me?" Scarlet Witch was very angry. "You were so lazy that you didn't even take me with you." Rogers. Tony walked over with a smile and clapped his hands. "Take advantage of this rare peaceful day, or let's go on vacation." The scene suddenly became silent. Zelda looked up. "The last time Link and I followed you out, you were almost killed on the track." Natasha put her hands on her hips. "Vacation? What are you going to do?" "Tony, are you going to play volleyball with the captain? The photos of you playing volleyball together are all over the internet." "Rogers, don't mention it. We have to be on standby at the Avengers and can't leave." Although the Valruta beast has been restored to control, there are still 3 beasts under Ganon's control. Now they are just sleeping under the suppression of the heroes. Mipha said timidly, "It will take some time for me to get used to the compatibility with Valruta. It will take some time to recover the other beasts. Otherwise, Ganon's will control Valruta again. We can't leave this opportunity to Ganon." At this time, Nick and Coulson, who hadn't seen each other for a long time, suddenly visited the Avengers. Nick's one eye scanned everyone, and he said in a deep voice, "It seems that your team has grown a lot. I decided to form the Avengers 20 years ago. It took me 20 years to find Barton and Natasha, and you have gathered so many people. It turns out that freaks like to stay with freaks." Natasha stepped forward happily. "Nick, you look good." Coulson came to Rogers enthusiastically and gave Captain America a comrade-in-arms hug. "It's been a long time." After Nick greeted everyone, Tony raised his eyebrows and asked, "Every time you come here, you bring trouble. You must not come here today because you miss Nana, right? Tell me, what's the matter?" Nick also spoke frankly. "There is a recent research result, and I think I need to tell you something. I always feel something is not good. This research finding may cause fluctuations around the world. Welcome to vote and subscribe to support genuine works." End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.